Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Move.
I'm saying no. Why you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir? It's not going to be stopped.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
I will go to hell before I sit here and I watch this country and the world turned over to these savages. I'm done, I'm pissed, and I'm not putting up with it anymore. You Satanists want to sacrifice the West. You want to kill the beautiful goddess that is the West. You people are enemies, and we're going to get your asses, and we know what you're up to, and we're coming for you. So I've had enough of these people. Okay, so I've been containing this for the last week. That's why I've been in here sweating, getting pissed.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler, of course.
Hello.
How's everybody doing? Hope you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving. Hope it was as fun and entertaining as Alex Jones. That's all we can hope for, right? It's well put together. A lot of Alex Jones memes went around.
He spent it with Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. So congratulations to Alex Jones getting super lucky there. Hey, thanks everybody for being here. Great crowd in here to start things off. 1191 in the YouTube chat to start things off tonight. How about that? That's impressive. It's impressive to get such a big crowd for such a highbrow show tonight. I feel like the topics here are very newsy. Yeah, it's very newsy. It's a very newsy show tonight. We don't have any RFK poems tonight, folks. Sorry, gotta come back next week.
I mean that should
drops.
really be like a weekly segment.
Well, when that book drops, I mean, we should do a whole special on that. We should do a full 3-hour show on the book.
Well, we should just get books of 18th century erotica. And you should read them in RFK's voice.
And just read them as him.
She was an expert glove fitter, fitting orifice to digit.
Yeah. Exactly. Like that movie Phantom Thread, but with RFK, as Daniel Day-Lewis.
That could be a hit.
It could be a hit. So speaking of Phantom Thread, folks, I wanted to just take a few minutes of your time, since I know when this movie came out in theaters, a few people were asking if we were planning on seeing it, and some people in the chat were curious and nudging us to see it. So I did get around to seeing the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie, One Battle After Another, because it just came out on streaming, so it's available to buy on streaming. And I never pay a lot of money for movies that are streaming unless it's a movie that I would have gone to see in a theater anyway. I'll spend $20 on it if I would have spent $20 at the movie theater anyway. That's kind of my rule. And so because we had a few days off where I didn't have to stay up all night prepping segments, my wife and I watched this, and I have to say I absolutely loved it. This was a brilliant, brilliant movie. Probably the best thing I've seen on a screen since The Haunting of Hill House. That to me was movies and TV combined, which you can kind of do now, since a lot of the talent from cinema has shifted to TV and kind of vice versa. This is the best thing I've seen since then. It was that good. And I know the people involved are a little cringe. You got Johnny Greenwood, who did the music, who's got the Israeli wife, who, considers himself a liberal Zionist type, peacemaker, blah, blah, blah,
right.
Radiohead, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then you have Paul Thomas Anderson, who's not really outspoken on the issue, but he's Zionist tolerant at least. That girl, I forget her name, who's the Israeli woman. She was in Licorice Pizza. She has a small role in this. He works with her, and then obviously Leo with his hotel. So, yeah, I mean, look, the talent involved in this is cringe. But I thought, and I do think that this is going to be a big conversation piece come Oscar season. I think it will do extremely well, and it's an amazing movie. So the plot is, an ex-revolutionary, a failed revolutionary, is sort of laying low off the grid with his teenage daughter, and for evil reasons that I won't get into now for time purposes, the feds come after the daughter. And so what's left of the sort of revolutionary movement kind of finds out that this is happening. They intercept the daughter just before the government can get to her, and they take her to like a safe house type place. But the feds are, of course, hot on her trail. And so the protagonist, the sort of stoned out, burnt out ex-revolutionary, the Leo DiCaprio character, has to basically get to the daughter before the feds, led by the main villain, Sean Penn, can get to her. So it's basically a chase movie. And
All right. So maybe you can explain something to me, because this is what I haven't really understood about the movie's context.
Yeah.
We did there's been no there was like no revolutionary movement in the 90s. Like that's where you would place Leonardo DiCaprio's character based on what I understand of the movie as being like his prime. So what are they talking about?
It's kind of in its own
world. Is it just
world.
kind of being fanciful, like it's its own world?
It's kind of its own world. So like at the beginning, the revolutionary act that sort of sets the prologue in motion is they're basically busting into a border patrol immigrant detention center. So it could take place like right now. And then 15 years later, it could be 15 years from now, which is still relatively the same as now, more or less. So it doesn't really
That's
like...
what you think.
It doesn't, yeah, exactly. It doesn't really ground itself in a specific era.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah, it's more or less modern day. Yeah, more or less. Like you
It's
could
like
assume,
it's like
it
an
started in
alternate
2010.
universe where 60s style radicalism happened in the 90s.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's Thomas Pynchon, so there are kind of surrealist elements and there are absurdist elements. It's really a screwball comedy. It's a screwball comedy chase caper movie. But it is incredibly well done. And I think it handles the politics of revolution very well. Like, it's not dismissive of the revolutionaries. It definitely sympathizes with them to an extent. It certainly paints the system as worth overthrowing. But at the same time, the revolutionaries themselves are clumsy, undisciplined, unserious, self-obsessed, and kind of clownish and irresponsible and ridiculous. And that's exactly how I feel about the left. Like, I'm on the left. I sympathize with a lot of the left's goals. But if we're being honest about ourselves, the left can be kind of ridiculous. And it paints itself that way. And you would love it because Leo is trying to get the operator, because there's like a revolutionary hotline. And he calls it up. He's trying to get the operator to give him the rendezvous point so we can get to his daughter. But because his mind is baked and has been so long, he forgets all of the passwords that he's supposed to remember so that they know he's not an informant or a fed trying to get to the safe house. And so the guy on the other end of the line is like a caricature of this DSA type. He's like, if you can't tell me the time, I can't give you the location. He's like, come on, I'm trying to get to my daughter. It's been so long. I'm high. I've been abusing my mind with drugs and alcohol. Please just give it to me. I'm sorry, sir. I can't do it. And he gets frustrated, keeps calling back, and he says, if I ever find you, I'm going to fuck you up. You don't know who you're fucking with. And he says, okay, now you're violating my safety. Now you're violating my safety and you're invading my space. He's invading your space. We're talking on the phone. What the fuck you talking about? So I think the politics of it are smart. It neither glorifies nor mocks the revolutionaries or the revolution. Technique-wise, it's absolutely extraordinary. I mean, the cinematography is gorgeous. The editing, the acting, the screenwriting, the music. I got to, even though Johnny Greenwood's a piece of shit, I have to give it to him. Like, it all comes together so phenomenally well. And the fact that the plot is simple enough to follow really makes it enjoyable, because the problem with P.T. Anderson's previous Pynchon adaptation, Inherent Vice, is that it was so faithful to the text, and the text is so bonkers that you kind of get lost in the flourishes and the artistic touches, right? Here, like, the plot is simple.
But they say that is the film that launched 1,000 Spankies.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. The plot here is simple enough to the point where all of the sort of artistic touches and flourishes and quirks can really be enjoyed because you never actually lose. You never lose the structure or the momentum of the actual story. Like, you're able to follow the story, and then everything that kind of gets thrown in alongside it is just really enjoyable because you feel like you're in good hands. You never lose the narrative. And so it's brilliant. And as someone who, Russ knows I'm a stickler for time. The worst thing a movie could be is too long. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. I did not check my phone once. I did not check the time once. It flows by so well. There's an amazing car chase toward the end where the cars are going through these rolling hills and they're bobbing up and down and in and out of the frame, and you're keeping track of one and the other. And then these great motion shots of cars flying off the road. Like, it's brilliant. It's an absolutely brilliant piece of art. And I know it bombed at the box. Part of why it bombed is because they spent too much money on it. Like, you can't pay these actors this much anymore. A 3-hour art film is not going to make $200 million, just no matter what. But it didn't,
like back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it didn't make no money. It just didn't make enough to recoup expenses because they probably paid Leo, God knows how many millions, right? But it'll have another shot. I think it's going to win a lot of awards, and so it'll get another run. It'll do well on streaming. But yeah, should definitely see it. It's super relevant to, like, the stuff we talk about on the show here. Full endorsement. All right, there you go. That's my opener. See, I get to talk about my life for a change. See, usually you get to talk about your life since you have a life. I get to talk about my life for a change. I watched a movie on demand. Isn't that impressive? I got out.
Hey,
not really, but kind of.
You're underestimating the potential of the look. This is what I want. I want the Russ on the Road channel, and you know what the counterpart is?
The Keaton at Home channel.
Boom.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I want.
Russ on the Road and Keaton at Home.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. I think there's a big audience for that. If people will watch, Octomom, they'll watch you.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
There's a big audience for these kind of domestic reality things, and you're funny.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That could work. I saw we'll get to that Rumble rant soon, that Brianna criticized it from a racial angle. I know she did. I know she didn't like it. I'm gonna pitch to her, if this wins the Oscar, maybe she can have me on and we could talk about it, because I would like to talk about it with her. So if it wins and people are talking about this again in a few months, I'm gonna try and maneuver my way onto the Bad Faith channel again to have a
talk about this,
have a debate. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm gonna have like white fragility back here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whenever you guys take a pause, I'm gonna throw that in.
Yeah, right, exactly. All right, let's get down to the serious business of the day. A lot of serious business going on in the world.
Okay. All right, let's work out. So Hegseth, Pete Hegseth, or as his call sign would have it, Old Whiskey Dick, went and it didn't take him very long to commit war crimes. Who could have seen that coming? Private DTs committing war crimes less than a year into his assignment. Hegseth order on first Caribbean boat strike, officials say, kill them all, as 2 men clung to a stricken burning ship targeted by SEAL Team 6. The Joint Special Operations Commander followed the Defense Secretary's order to leave no survivors. This was from the Washington Post. They broke this story. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave a verbal directive, according to 2 people with direct knowledge of the operation. The order was to kill everybody, one of them said. A missile screamed off the Trinidad coast, striking the vessel and igniting a blaze from bow to stern. For minutes, commanders watched the boat burning on a live drone feed. As the smoke cleared, they got a jolt. 2 survivors were clinging to the smoldering wreck. The Special Operations Commander overseeing the September 2nd attack the opening salvo in the Trump administration's war on suspected drug traffickers in the Western Hemisphere, ordered a second strike to comply with Hegseth's instructions, two people familiar with the matter said. The two men were blown apart in the water, says Senator Andy Kim. Reminder that shortly after ordering these strikes, Hegseth removed the press corps from the Pentagon, and the Southcom commander overseeing operations in the Caribbean unexpectedly announced he is stepping down 2 years before his term is up. What we are seeing is almost certainly just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, smart ones are heading for the exits, man. They don't want to wind up in the Hague being tried for war crimes. And this is the commander who resigned suddenly. Admiral Alvin Halsey, the commander overseeing the operations in the Caribbean, announced his resignation the same day as Hegseth's illegal kill them all strike against survivors. That's a smart man. That's a smart man. Brian Krasenstein put this up later on. Right now we call this a tweet thread. Later on we may be calling it evidence. Right. When Pete Hegseth is charged with war crimes, just remember what J.D. Vance told me. Vance said, killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. Krasenstein responded, killing the citizens of another nation who are civilians without any due process is called a war crime. To which Vance responded, I don't give a shit what you call it. Be interested to see how he explains that in court. So in some evidence of Trump's loosening grip over even his own GOP faithful, the Armed Services Committee, the joint ranking members, both Democrat and Republican, Mike Rogers for the Republicans, Adam Smith for the Democrats, have come together to investigate. They put out this statement. This committee is committed to providing rigorous oversight of the Department of Defense's military operations in the Caribbean. We take seriously the reports of follow-on strikes on boats alleged to be ferrying narcotics in the Southcom region and are taking bipartisan action to gather a full accounting of the operation in question. Further evidence of that loosening grip over the GOP. This is Don Bacon went on, what is this, Meet the Press? Meet the Press.
That's America.
It's
not
ABC.
America
this week, right?
Good Morning This Week, whatever the fuck, yeah.
The old Stephanopoulos
I think that's what it's called. Good Morning This Week, whatever the fuck.
Good night this week. He went on there. Now, as I recall, Don Bacon actually was one of the few GOP members who spoke up about appointing Hegseth in the first place. So maybe not too much of a surprise, but he does kind of defend him while at the same time acknowledging, yeah, if he did do that, it's illegal no matter what they say.
Your committee, you're on the Armed Services Committee, is going to be investigating this, according to your chairman. How concerned are you that this may have been a real violation of the way, even if we're, I mean, there's a question of whether or not we're at war, but that this would violate the laws of warfare?
Well, it is a big concern. Now, Secretary of Defense Hegseth denies it. We should get to the truth. I don't think he would be foolish enough to make this decision to say, kill everybody, kill the survivors, because that's a clear violation of the law of war. So I'm very suspicious that he would have done something like that, because it would go against common sense. So let's get the facts. And if the facts go to where they want.
The guy who went on camera clearly nursing a severe hangover with one shaved sideburn and one unshaved sideburn, ranting in front of his mortified kids. You can't imagine that guy having ordered an illegal strike.
Washington Post article takes it, well then we'll have to go from there. But if it was as if the article said, that is a violation of the law of war. When people want to surrender, you don't kill them. And they have to pose an imminent threat. It's hard to believe that two people on a raft trying to survive would pose an imminent threat. So let's get the facts first. The Secretary Hegseth deserves his day to present his side of the story.
And
I think he's playing coy, honestly, watching that clip again, because I'm almost positive, because I covered this at the time, I'm almost positive he was one of the few GOP to speak out about him getting appointed as Secretary of Defense. So I think he's saying what he has to say. Yeah, he probably wouldn't have done that. And then he goes on to explain how illegal it would be.
Oh,
if
of
he
course,
did do it.
of course. No,
Yeah.
if he were all in
He's
on
being
defending,
cute.
if he were all in on defending Hegseth, he would have done a Pam Bondi. You know, these are dangerous criminals.
This is
Tell me,
terrible.
How dare you question,
Yes.
you know, our ability to target dangerous drugs? But yeah, no, he didn't do that. He's like, yeah, this sounds bad. Maybe it's not true, but if it is, that's no good.
Yep. So here is Secretary DT's. As usual, the fake news is delivering more fabricated, inflammatory, and derogatory reporting to discredit our incredible warriors. Yeah, no, it's about them. It's not about fucking you.
Yeah.
It's not about you. It's about them. Fighting to protect the homeland. Might you sound like a little bit more of a Nazi there? To be fair, they didn't start that homeland shit. As we've said from the beginning and in every statement, these highly effective strikes are specifically intended to be lethal kinetic strikes. Oh, well, he used the word kinetics. That makes it sound a lot better. The declared intent is to stop lethal drugs, destroy narco boats, and kill the narco terrorists who are poisoning the American people. Every trafficker we kill is affiliated with a designated terrorist organization. Well, you know, a great way that you could make that point, you could take the survivors to court. Take them to court. That would be a good way to prove that, huh? The Biden administration preferred the kid gloves approach, allowing millions of people, including dangerous cartels and unvetted Afghans. We're going to get to that in your piece. I don't want to step on it, but I think everybody knows this now. The Afghan he's obliquely referencing here was approved for asylum in April. Who was president in April? That was Trump, wasn't it? I think it was Trump at that time.
And he was CIA.
And he was CIA. To flood our communities with drugs and violence, the Trump administration has sealed the border and gone on offense against narco terrorists. Biden coddled terrorists, we kill them. Our current operations in the Caribbean are lawful under both U.S. and international law, with all actions in compliance with the law of armed conflict and approved by the best military and civilian lawyers up and down the chain of command. The only problem with that is all the best military and civilian lawyers left because they don't want to wind up in prison. They got one look at you. They got one look at Blanche Dubois Bondi. They ran for the exits, but we'll get into that. Our warriors in Southcom put their lives on the line every day to protect the homeland from narco terrorists, and I will always have their back when I'm sober. So Crystal Ball quoted over this. Becoming pretty obvious why this administration totally melted down at the mere suggestion that service members should not follow unlawful orders. The boat bombings are murder. So let's take a look at this legal justification that Hegseth is relying on. U.S. troops not liable in boat strikes, classified Justice Department memo says. The Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel stated in a classified opinion drawn up in the summer that personnel taking part in military strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats in Latin America would not be exposed to future prosecution, according to 4 people familiar with the matter. The decision to pursue an opinion drafted in July reflects the heightened concerns within the government raised by senior civilian and military lawyers that such strikes would be illegal. The strikes, now totaling 19, with a death toll of 76, began in September, though interagency discussions regarding the use of legal force to combat drug cartels started early in the Trump administration. In a statement to the Post Wednesday, Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell said current operations in the Caribbean are lawful under both U.S. and international law, with all actions in complete compliance with the law of armed conflict. Lawyers up and down the chain of command have been thoroughly involved in reviewing these operations prior to execution, he said, adding that personnel have, quote, the opportunity to disagree. You're welcome to express your honest opinion. Everyone is free to say what they think openly here without consequence or fear. Despite that, Parnell said no lawyer involved has questioned the legality of the Caribbean strikes, involved being the key word, and instead advised subordinate commanders and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth that the proposed actions were permissible before they commenced. A Justice Department spokesman said the boat strikes were ordered consistent with the laws of armed conflict and as such are lawful orders. Military personnel are legally obligated to follow lawful orders and as such are not subject to prosecution for following lawful orders, unquote. Rebecca Ingber, a former State Department attorney and law of war expert, said field personnel are being asked to conduct activities that are, quote, unprecedented and frankly unlawful. Asserting that a practice is legal does not necessarily make it so, though in practice, an OLC opinion may well serve as a hurdle to a future Department of Justice prosecution, she said. A future OLC could withdraw the memo, as the Obama administration did with memos justifying the use of harsh interrogation techniques, i.e. torture. That's my note, written by the Bush-era OLC. But the Obama Justice Department still declined to prosecute people who had relied on them. We tortured some folks. And that's all I have to say about that. With its boat strikes against alleged narco traffickers, the Trump administration has sought to graft the language and framework of the 2-decade-long battle against international terrorism, the global war on terrorism, onto what has generally been viewed as a criminal law enforcement problem. By framing the military campaign as a war, the administration is able to argue that murder statutes do not apply, said Sarah Harrison, a senior analyst with the International Crisis Group and a former Pentagon lawyer. Quote, if the U.S. is at war, then it would be lawful to use lethal force as a first resort, she said. The president, she argued, is fabricating a war so that he can get around the restrictions on lethal force during peacetime, like murder statutes. Okay, so the game they're playing is, well, yes, this is illegal, but we're going to have the Office of Legal Counsel write a memo that future administrations will be hesitant to override because, you know, the you wash our hand, we wash yours principle, you don't prosecute us, we don't prosecute you principle will probably be in play as it was under Obama regarding Bush torture. But you have retired JAGs analyze this. There's a statement from the former JAGS working group that was put together in response to Hegseth dismantling the offices that would have normally evaluated these acts before they went ahead and took them. Yes. I wonder why he did that.
It's all starting to come together.
It's all starting to come together. Yeah, here they say, our group was established in February 2025 in response to the SecDef's firing of the Army and Air Force Judge Advocates General and his systematic dismantling of the military's legal guardrails. Had those guardrails been in place, we are confident they would have prevented these crimes. Well, that's why they were dismantled.
That's right.
So this is their opinion on the assertions of the Justice Department that there's nothing to see here. If the U.S. military operation to interdict and destroy suspected narco trafficking vessels is a non-international armed conflict, as the Trump administration suggests, orders to kill everybody, which can reasonably be regarded as an order to give no quarter and to double tap a target in order to kill survivors, are clearly illegal under international law. In short, they are war crimes. If the U.S. military operation is not an armed conflict of any kind, these orders to kill helpless civilians clinging to the wreckage of a vessel or military destroyed would subject everyone from SecDef down to the individual who pulled the trigger to prosecution under U.S. law for murder. See, people think I'm crazy when I say a lot of people are going to jail because of this administration. I believe that is becoming more and more evident. So now, why would you get such unanimity as they claim? Everybody, according to them, up and down the chain who reviewed this said it's all kosher. Well, because anybody who wouldn't say it's kosher left. About half the Justice Department is left since Trump came in. Literally about half. Justice Department struggles as thousands exit and few are replaced. Nobody's applying. Nobody's applying. This used to be a very competitive position to get a job at the Justice Department. You had to really have a great track record as a prosecutor. You had to come out most likely from a prestigious school. Now they're basically telling people, hey, you want a job, give us a call. Janine Pirro is begging people to come work for her. Keaton, you could probably get a job.
Yeah.
Go work for Janine. Last year, roughly 10,000 attorneys worked across the Justice Department and its components, including the FBI. Justice Connection, an advocacy group that has been tracking departures, estimates that around 5,500 people, not all of them attorneys, have quit the department, been fired, or taken a buyout offered by the Trump administration. So they're down about half. And it's not that they want to be down that much. They can't get people to apply to work for this Justice Department. This is how bad it is. Even the Babylon Bee took a shot at this. Trump's strategy of hiring lawyers based on bust size not working as well as anticipated. Good job there. Good job. So here's Whiskey Breath being asked about his alleged illegal orders here.
What legal authority did the Pentagon invoke to strike that boat full of drug smugglers?
We have the absolute and complete authority to conduct that. First of all, just the defense of the American people alone. 100,000 Americans were killed each year under the previous administration because of an open border and open drug traffic flow.
Was there an
that is an assault on the American people. I said we smoked a drug boat, and there's 11 narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean. And when other people try to do that, they're going to meet the same fate.
I'm not a war criminal. You're a war criminal. You're a war criminal. You look like a war criminal. You're a war criminal. War criminal.
Yeah, I thought this was America. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was America.
America. So let's close out with an actual honorable service member, former service member, Greg Stoker, unlike that piece of fucking moldering shit that we call the Secretary of War these days. The accelerating parallels between the U.S. and Nazi Germany, which have always existed, remind me of the Peleus trial, a British military court case in 1945 that convicted 5 crew members of the German submarine U-852 in 1944 for the murder of survivors from the torpedoed Greek merchant ship, the Peleus. After striking the Peleus, the crew was ordered to gun down and grenade the survivors. The captain and 2 officers were sentenced to death. Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be more obvious that there is no legal pretext for what they're doing. Even if these were drug traffickers, there is still, as the JAG working group pointed out, there is no international law under which you're allowed to kill survivors clinging to a side of a boat that don't pose any threat. You covered the story a couple of months ago about how they actually had them in detention and they let them go because they
Right.
know if they bring any of these people to trial, it's going to come out that they're just killing fishermen. And why are they killing these fishermen? As a pretext to do what they're about to do in Venezuela. This was all building up a casus belli to go into Venezuela. Oh yeah, we're at war with these drug traffickers. It was never even about just intimidating the region. It was about building up a pretext to start a war. An element of this that is being little explored, and honestly, there's so much to cover tonight. I didn't really get into this angle too much. A lot of this has to do with China, man. China's building ports in Peru. They're making a lot of inroads into South America. Not only is it obviously it's a resource grab, particularly in regards to Venezuela. We're also going to cover Honduras tonight. It's also to counter China. China is doing what it's been doing in Africa and South America. Yeah, we don't want to take over. We're not interested in how you govern. We just want economic partnerships. We'll build ports. You give us some favorable trade status in exchange. All good. And hey, most countries around the world, it's a much better deal than dealing with our crazy asses, and they're going for it. The only thing we have to counter with, we're not going to offer a better deal. We're going to use our enormous military to act like gangsters, as we always have in South America, and force them into the shape that we want them to take.
Well, yeah, and that's where the Nobel Peace Prize winner comes in, right?
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it totally makes sense that, you know, when you put it like that, when you put it in the context of, you know, building a case for war, it makes sense that he would say kill them all because survivors can talk and survivors can blow up your whole narrative. So, no, of course I believe he did this. And if you notice, even Trump was just on Air Force One saying, well, I don't think he did it. Like the line out of the administration is he didn't do it. And, you know, one thing that everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but almost everybody learns about Donald Trump at some point in their relationship with him is that he is extremely disloyal and will throw you overboard when you become a liability. This has happened countless times in Trump's inner circles. And so don't think that they won't just throw Hegseth to the dogs. Sure. Oh, yeah, that was a terrible thing that he did. He's fired. He's out. He's got to be prosecuted. Like, who's to say they won't do that?
Sure.
Really. I mean, why wouldn't they? You know, he'll find some other stooge that he could promote and fill that spot. But, you know, Hegseth was extremely arrogant. Yeah, he should have just stepped down after Signalgate. He should have realized, you know what? This ain't for me. I'm too much of a fucking moron to handle this, you know. Instead, he got himself into...
What? Arresting me for what? I'm not allowed to stand up for myself? I thought this was America. Huh?
I'm sorry.
Is this America? I'm sorry. I thought this was America.
Yeah, because he's just... I mean, that was his time to just exit. And now I think as more information comes, or not even as more information comes to light, as what's already come to light is verified. You know, I don't think he is long for that job. I think he. I suspected he would be forced out when Signalgate happened. It's a sign of things to come, right? He just can't hold it together. And your answer can't be what he gave there. I mean, because that's out of step with what the rest of his team is saying. The rest of his team is saying, well, yeah, I mean, we don't think he did it, but they're acknowledging that if he did, it's really horrible. Of course. I mean, it goes without saying you can't fire upon, you know, survivors of an attack who are surrendering and who pose no threat. I mean, that's
right.
Obvious.
As you can see from those Justice Department numbers, anyone who's not a freak, a weirdo, a crackpot, an incompetent, anybody who has a future to look forward to, who has skill, who has talent, who has something to offer, they're going to wait this administration out to go work for the next one.
Right.
I'm not saying that's a Democrat thing, just the next one. Right. They're gonna sit this out and say, you know, man, this is not going to end well for anyone who takes that job. I have other opportunities. The people who are willing to go there are people with nothing to lose, like Blanche Dubois Bondi. It's people like that. Pete Hegseth. Who other than Donald Trump would make that blathering drunk the Secretary of Defense?
Right.
So what's he got to lose? You know, it's not like, I can wait next time. I'll get that job next time. This is the one and only shot he's ever got to have a job like that.
Holding out for Vince McMahon. Right?
Yeah. That's coming up next.
All right. All right, we'll take some super chats and some Rumble rants. Abiding says, out of respect for DD, I'll keep this short. Keaton, don't merely read our chats, receive them. Picture each word as it's made of glass you don't want to break. I shouldn't have to explain myself. Thank you, Abiding. Good advice. Appreciate that. Chrysler says, thanks for the $5. Happy Rechtenwald was on. I had told him y'all mentioned him. Great interview. Thank you. No, it was great. That was a great interview. It was great to meet Michael. Absolutely. We'll have him on again as the campaign season goes on, I'm sure. Vianticus Prime says, everything's a scam, everything's a lie. Tomorrow's Cyber Monday. Be careful what you buy. Good one. Like I said the other day, says Vianticus, I'm a one-trick pony, and by pony, I mean pony, and by trick, I mean Cenk Uygur. RFK isn't a trick, though. I'm not into felching. Hope this joke will land better here. Thank you, Vianticus. Appreciate it. Kem and G says, apparently Daniel Day-Lewis will be playing RFK Jr. in the film version of American Canyon. I hope he doesn't go method with the felching. Yeah, there you go. All right, let's take some super chat, shall we? Oh, by the way, we got Jake in the booth tonight. Shout out to Jake for being here. And it is Sunday, so we will be going to Q&A after the main show.
Michael Castillo, yeah, he's going to do that. Keaton, I'm leaving for NYC in May. I want to try to set something up. I'll fly you out of it.
Fly me in. I don't need to fly in. I could take a
hopefully
train.
The Subway series. Listen, man, this motherfucker has had my G.G. Allen poster for like a year. Literally a year. I can't get this.
Well, we got to come because I need the lights, and we have to do an equipment exchange before you go. So I do have to come down to the city sometime next month.
Yeah, but it's not going to be May.
But thanks, Michael. Yeah, no, it'll be before May.
Yeah. How do you do this again? Oh, just on start, right?
Yeah, you're just on start.
Yeah. John Olmsted. John Olmsted. I show my girlfriend the RFK clip, and now she has nightmares. Well, that's how you know she's a keeper. If she doesn't have nightmares, you need to get out of there quick.
Yeah, and it's impressive that you feel comfortable showing it to her.
Yeah, that's a healthy relationship.
That's a healthy
right
relationship.
Mirandlos 1093 became a YouTube member. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Russell's Peasant Mind. They are full-on vampires is my favorite quote from the new intro. Also, I am a dissident.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Move along.
Yep, let's move right on along.
I'll assume the position.
All right.
I don't know why. I don't know, man. It's my chakras. I like my chakras open when I'm doing a segment. You know, in case anybody wants to felch down there. All right. So Venezuela got put on notice by our illustrious president. To all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, human traffickers, except the ones who used to fly the routes on Epstein Island, because we don't want you guys taken into custody. Just stay out of that area for a little while. Please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Then Trump. Now, I just, you know, man, the term enemy of the people is used all too much in this business. But if you want to see an enemy of the people, you need look no further than Eric Doherty, one of the dirty four caught in Sodagate, and I'm sure pushing sugary drinks on the public for a few $100s is the least of his crimes. Holy crap! It is about to happen. Where did this holy crap come from? Why they all do that?
Yeah.
Or Eagleman does it. Holy crap! Holy crap! Wow, man, what a fucking piece of shit you have got to be, man. You want to talk about a traitor to your country? You want to talk about a traitor to your country? I can't believe Eric Doherty or anyone who's making a living peddling chum to chuds this way is stupid enough not to understand how awful this is for the country, and particularly how awful it is for the kind of people who follow Eric Doherty. The fact that you would think nothing of trying to put a good face on something that even the people, this is where they're in a trap. even the people who follow Eric Doherty don't agree with this. Most of them, I guarantee. But, you know, this is where their bread is buttered. They really don't know what to do. But the fact that you would just go ahead and pump this up because that's your job, what a fucking pig, man.
Well, the Republicans are opposed 62 to 38.
I know. I have the poll.
Yeah.
I have the poll, man. It's but they don't know what to do because this is where they get their money from, man. According to Marjorie Taylor Greene, I believe it. Probably getting paid by Influenceable. Probably has all these people on the hook. That's who was paying them for Sodagate. But here you go. What's this really about? This is from Save Our Citizenships. Venezuela is essentially free of drug production and processing. No coca, no marijuana, and certainly no fentanyl, according to the authoritative United Nations World Drug Report 2025. The European Union's assessment of global drug sources does not even mention Venezuela. So it's about oil, as she says, letting the cat out of the bag here. This is Maria Elvira Salazar, Republican from Florida.
Venezuela, for those Americans who do not understand why we need to go in, basically for three reasons. You're in Fox Business. Venezuela, for the American oil companies, will be a field day because it will be more than $1 trillion in economic activity. American companies can go in and fix all the oil pipe, the whole oil rigs, and everything that has to do with the Venezuelan petroleum companies, or everything that has to do with oil and the derivatives. We're going to be doing a favor to us, to our children, to our economy, to our oil company.
Wow, you know, she didn't mention there Venezuela. The people of Venezuela. Don't you love it when they forget to toe the party line? Oh, he's a terrible dictator. We have to save these people. Yeah, Venezuela has the world's largest proven oil reserves. They have 303 billion proven barrels of oil. The next largest reserves are Saudi Arabia, 267 billion. After that, it's Iran. I believe that's 203 billion barrels. And that drops down to Canada, 167 billion barrels. So that's what this is about. Between those four countries, that's half the world's oil supply. The United States ranks 9th at, I believe it's 55 billion barrels. But don't take our word for it. Take Donald Trump 2023's word for it.
How about we're buying oil from Venezuela? When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken it over. We would have gotten all that oil. It would have been right next door.
Well, there you go. There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
Right? Nothing about drugs. Nothing about drugs. Oben Zain, it was never about the drugs, or else he would have went after Colombia and Mexico. It was always about the oil. And there's Glenn responding to that. The U.S. drug crisis on which everyone focused was fentanyl. That comes from Mexico and China, which is why Trump vowed to bomb Mexican drug cartels. Instead, Rubio got him to regime change Venezuela, and now people claim fentanyl comes from Venezuela, even though it doesn't. And here, speak of the devil, literally, here's Marco Rubio commenting on our apparent impending invasion of Venezuela and the European reaction.
The European Union gets to determine what international law is. What they certainly don't get to determine is how the United States defends its national security. The United States is under attack from organized criminal narco-terrorists in our hemisphere, and the president is responding in the defense of our country. I do find it interesting that all these countries want us to send, and supply, for example, nuclear-capable Tomahawk missiles to defend Europe. But when the United States positions aircraft carriers in our hemisphere where we live, somehow that's a problem. So I would say that the United States and this president has made very clear his job is to protect the United States from threats against the United States, and that is what he's doing in this operation.
2025 Marco Rubio needs to have a talk with 2016 Marco Rubio, set him straight.
Donald Trump to a third world dictator yesterday in an interview with the New York Times. How so?
Well, I don't know about a dictator. I said a third world strongman.
You know, he's running for president, so no matter what, he won't be a dictator unless our republic completely crumbles, which I don't anticipate it will.
Working
yeah,
on it.
Here's what happens in many countries around the world. You have a leader that emerges and basically says, don't put your faith in yourselves, don't put your faith in society, put your faith in me. I'm a strong leader, and I'm going to make things better all by myself. This is very typical. You see it in the third world. You see it a lot in Latin America for decades. It's basically the argument he's making that he single-handedly
usually
is
with
turn
our
the country
funding
around. We've never been that kind of country. We have a president.
Maybe he should be
the
president of
president
Venezuela.
is an American citizen who serves for a period of time, constrained by the constitutions and the powers vested in that office. The president works for the people, not the people for the president. And if you listen to the way he describes himself and what he's going to do, he's going to single-handedly do this and do that without regard for whether it's legal or not. Look, I think people are going to have to make up their mind. I can tell you this, no matter what happens in this election, for years to come, there are many people on the right, in the media, and voters at large that are going to be having to explain and justify how they fell into this trap of supporting Donald Trump, because this is not going to end well one way or the other.
Well, we're in the other.
We're in the other. We're in the other. That's what you call in the Trump administration. They say he got felched.
Right. Yeah.
They felched him.
Felched your milkshake. Speaking of Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, whistling a very different tune now, isn't he? Sounds very different now. You know, I mean, it's interesting. Like, everything he's saying there is exactly what he is facilitating now. This is how soulless and craven these people are. What you see there in that clip is he knew better. He knew better. He understood what Trump was. He understood what he represented. Honestly, listening to that, better than I did. Like, I didn't really buy that. I thought that kind of rhetoric about Trump was overheated, particularly given that it was coming a lot from people like Hillary Clinton, who I didn't take very seriously. Rubio seemed to understand him better than I did, but didn't stop him from selling his soul in order to get his own agenda met. You know, I'm sure the overthrow of Maduro, given that he's one of these right-wing Cuba fanatics, is part of his personal agenda. So he sees Trump as a tool to that. He really doesn't care what that's doing to the country. So here is Maduro, who I got to say has a pretty good wry sense of humor in a lot of these interviews, talking about how he can't be a dictator because he wasn't trained at Langley and so on. How could I be a dictator if I was not trained at the School of the Americas at Harvard? I was not trained at Langley, West Point, the School of the Americas, or Harvard. I was trained in the high schools of Caracas, in the neighborhoods of El Valle. 20... Yeah, he got that. He doesn't need me to translate. So yeah, pointing out that most of these dictators are supported and funded by the United States. Here's a little list here from Afshin Ratanzi, who's the one who shared that video. Pinochet, Trujillo, Somoza, on and on and on and on and on. Alvarez, Branco, this long list. Noriega, of people who have been supported by the U.S. or essentially fascist dictators in Latin America. We've been involved in at least 56 military interventions in Latin America. This is a map of some of them. Obviously, Cuba, 1961, Bay of Pigs. More recently, Haiti, 2004, Puerto Rico, 1950, Guatemala, 1954, Nicaragua, 81 to 90. That was Iran-Contra. Chile, 1973. Honduras, 2009, which we'll get into a little bit later. The overthrow of the government there. So yeah, this is nothing new. Look at this map. Countries where U.S. government has admitted to launching military interventions. That's like every fucking country. Yeah. It's like every goddamn country, like Australia down there didn't get invaded. Canada didn't get invaded, but like literally most of Earth, if you look at this, outside of our own territory, has been fucked with by our military. 469 U.S. military interventions over the course of our history. This is from Ben Norton. The United States launched at least 251 military interventions between 1991 and 2022. Is that insane? 251? This is according to a report by the Congressional Research Service, a U.S. government institution that compiles information on behalf of Congress. The report documented another 218 U.S. military interventions from 1798 to 1990. That makes for a total of 469 U.S. military interventions since 1798 that have been acknowledged by the Congress. And we can say with some certainty there are some actions that are not acknowledged by the Congress. So here's Maduro again explaining the narrative that they're laying out to justify what they're doing. They can't say Maduro has weapons of mass destruction. I'll turn it down a little bit. Or say about me what they said about Saddam Hussein. They can't. Nobody would believe them. So they bring up the stories they've invented, Hollywood style, where Maduro is the villain in the movie and they are the good guys. And then they're going to send in their army, the good guys in the movie, tall, blonde, strong guys. Like, I think he's named Daryl Cooper, like this one. This guy. Coming to get the Latino, the bad guy. But the real truth of the movie, the people know it, that the bad guy isn't who they say it is, that the real bad guy is the one who writes the script, the one who makes the movie. Those are the real villains, as we have shown time and time again. Venezuela is a free country, completely free from the phenomena of drug trafficking. Free. There's not a single hectare, not one hectare planted with coca leaf plantations here. There are no cocaine labs. And the ones they sneak across the border, bang, bang, bang. We destroy them ourselves. Our police forces, our military forces. Not even a hectare of marijuana. Because now marijuana is also produced legally in the United States. It's grown legally in American territory. It's enriched marijuana. And even certain U.S. presidents consume it as well. And there's the fact that all drug consumption happens in the United States, admitted by them themselves. Yeah, exactly. He lays that out very well, as you could see from that history of our interventions in that region and the outcomes. Who have we installed? Who have we supported? Monsters like Pinochet. These are the people that we have installed. Who have we supported? The Contras. But Lindsey Graham thinks this is all great. I very much appreciate and respect the determination by President Trump to deal with the drug caliphate countries that inhabit our backyard, chief among them Venezuela. For over a decade, Maduro has controlled a narco-terrorist state that is poisoning America, and he has created alliances with international terrorist organizations like Hezbollah. He is an illegitimate leader who has been indicted for drug trafficking in U.S. courts and maintains control of Venezuela by a reign of terror. President Trump's strong commitment to end this madness in Venezuela will save countless American lives and will give the beautiful people of Venezuela a new lease on life. I hear Turkey and Iran are lovely this time of year. Yeah. Yeah.
P.S. Bobby Kennedy, you left your sippy straw in my apartment last night. Oh, that was supposed to be a text message. My assistant, that was supposed to be a private message, not a tweet for public consumption.
You're welcome to come back and get it anytime. It's still in my tushy.
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, on a different note, reminder, Congress has the sole power to declare war in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. Yeah, well, they haven't played by that rule in a damn long time. And let's look at the polling, man. A lot of people say Trump serves his base, but it looks like he only serves the balls and the shaft. Doesn't even touch the base. Do you think the United States should attempt to remove Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro from power? All 76% no. Republicans 62% no. Independents 79% no. Democrats 88% no. This is November 12th, and I'm sure the numbers have not improved since he put out his crazy tweet about the airspace. This is what I mean when I say somebody like Eric Doherty, not only is he an enemy of the people, and Gunther Eagleman and all the rest of these fucking assholes, they're really enemies of the American people and the world. They're enemies of the world. Also, they're between a rock and a hard place, man. Nobody wants this shit, but their career is built around pretending Trump is doing great. They don't know how to shift that gear. They don't know who their audience would be if they did. So they have to just keep supporting this and propagandizing. And they're probably straight out paid through Influenceable or another company to put these kinds of messages out to try to get people to go along with it. But it's just at this point, and this is true of Trump top to bottom, side to side, you're just left with the fucking dregs of society now. You're just left with the dumbest of the dumb. Steph Zamorano, she just tweeted out, yeah, she says Trump voters I've spoken to are very disappointed. You know, they're all saying this is not what they voted for. And, it's not, man. I mean, there are a lot of Trump voters we have a lot of agreements with who are not happy with this. I saw, as soon as that happened with the Epstein files, you saw a tremendous drop-off in his supporters. I saw a lot of people say, I'll never vote again. And fair enough. The Democrats, I'm not going to say, well, you got to go to them. They vote harder for Democrats. It's just a corrupt system all across the board. But Donald Trump is so fucking out of control, so awful. He's redeeming technocracy. By the time this is done, people will be very happy to see the Jake Sullivans and the Antony Blinkens come back. They're going to look very good by comparison. And frankly, I don't think the Democrats will have changed one bit if and when they come back into power. That's what you'll get. You'll get a restoration of that class.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a difference between the Trump voter, the 2024 Trump voter, and the 2025 Trump supporter. I don't fault people.
That is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't fault people who voted for Trump because she was horrible. Just like I don't really fault people for voting for Kamala because he was horrible. Genocide's a red line for me. We supported Jill Stein in solidarity with the Palestinians in Michigan who launched that movement to boycott the ticket. And that's what I felt the right thing to do was. So yeah, there's no I'm not gonna beat people up for how they voted. But at this point, if a pollster calls you up and asks, do you support Donald Trump? And you answer yes, you are a fucking moron. You are just really off the fucking deep end.
Yeah.
You're off your fucking rocker at that at this point. That's why his poll numbers are down in the 30s because that's who's left.
Right.
That's who's left. Ultra low information voters who really barely pay attention to anything, and sadists,
right?
who like the fact that they're getting betrayed on the Epstein files, who like the ICE raids, who want to overthrow Venezuela. I mean, you are left yeah, man, there is something fucking wrong with you if at this point you tell a pollster, yes, I support Donald Trump. That's different from people who voted for Donald Trump, right? A lot of people who the people who voted for Donald Trump who aren't fucking imbeciles have pretty much jumped ship by now. Who are you left with at this point? War in Venezuela? I mean, just look at these numbers.
Right.
Look at these numbers. When George Bush did his conquest, he had overwhelming support amongst everyone because 9/11 was fresh in people's mind and people were scared and people didn't know who to trust. People had not been familiar with I shouldn't say they were not familiar, but the 90s were a period of relative stability where we didn't go to war, in the way that George Bush sent our troops into action. So, people were not as war weary, right? It was a different time. And he had, 70% support for the Iraq war when it launched. You're gonna send American troops into Venezuela with these kind of numbers. 62% of Republicans oppose. 80% of independents oppose. Like, there's no way they can do this and hang on to power through legitimate means. That's what makes 2026 kind of scary, because there is no way they can pursue this agenda and hang on to power unless they flip the board, unless you're talking about just major voter suppression efforts, martial law, right? That's the kind of stuff that they're going to need to resort to if they want to cling to power, because these numbers are just too drastic to overcome. They are, and yet they're pursuing this agenda anyway. Like, you talk about just like spitting in the face of your own people. A $40 billion bailout to Argentina.
Yep.
While Tyson is closing a plant of 3,200 workers in Nebraska, the fucking piece of shit steak that they're trying to sell me for $16 a pound at Trader Joe's is from Argentina, and our beef plants are closing. Like, you're just betraying your own people. Like, who is left to support this? Who?
Well, and also, if you look at the way that Venezuela seems to have disposed its military, it looks like they have set themselves up such that you would have to really fight house to house, because they've set up almost urban militias backed by professional military.
Right.
And under this collection of crackpots and freaks, you have to assume the military is not going to run very well or competently or make very intelligent decisions in the face of that. So what does an administration do in response to heavy resistance that they're really not smart enough to cope with? They're going to bomb the fuck out of Venezuela. That's going to be their response to that. It's going to be massive. So they're going to go IDF. They're going to just do massive airstrikes on civilians.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely horrible, and vast majority of Americans do not support it. You really think you're going to lead the country to war now in this climate? People don't have fucking money. People can't pay their credit card bills. The housing foreclosures are up 20%. Now you're going to send people to war in Venezuela? It's mind-boggling, man. It really is. It's I've never seen anything like it. I've said that over and over again on the show, but it's truer and truer every time. It gets more and more true every time. All right, let's go to some super chats. Why don't we take a few super chats?
All right. J.R. Jr., thanks for the review of OBAA, Keaton. And thrilled to hear you might discuss it with Brianna.
Well, I don't know that that's on.
Yeah,
If it wins the Oscar, I'll broach the subject with her. If it becomes like a conversation piece again, maybe I'll invite her on ours. I won't, I mean, I'll try.
We were at her house last time.
Yeah,
she's kind of due to come to our living.
I'll try and wiggle my way onto her show, but if that doesn't work, then I'll invite her on to ours.
Some fucked up nitpicking shit to dismiss it as problematic in a media environment saturated with mindless corporate slop.
I'll try and Jew my way onto her show, and if I can't Jew my way on, then I'll invite her on.
What are you saying about the new season of Stranger Things, JR?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It gets points for not being totally horrible, right? Like, you kind of love a movie just for not sucking nowadays, right?
Yeah,
it's true.
I mean, there's some good TV. Pluribus is really good.
The
new Vince Gilligan show.
There were some good movies this year.
It's very different territory for him, but that's part of what's so impressive about it. Like, for him to go to sci-fi from really building his career on doing this kind of character study of this whole Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad universe. It's still set in Albuquerque. It's really got a fucking thing about Albuquerque.
Yeah.
But
there were some decent movies this year. Sinners was really good. Weapons, I thought was really good.
Weapons
and
was good.
This one was good. Yeah, so that's 3 great movies. I mean, that's more than you get most years.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's some good movies. The box office is just fucking dying.
Yeah.
You know, I went with James to the movies the other day, and we both kind of looked at each other at the same time, like, yeah, I mean, this is over. Like, people are not going to the movies anymore. It's it's partly a cultural shift. Hollywood definitely didn't do itself any favors by deciding that its job was to lecture half the country. But I don't think that accelerated something that was going to happen anyway. Very much the way the COVID accelerated work at home.
Right.
Work at home was coming.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't help themselves with that, but you weren't going to be able to hold back this tide of changing consumption habits.
Right.
Like this is just a reality. It's a different world. We just don't live in a world where people had, 7 channels on the TV and movies were grand and TV was all small scale.
Right.
You look at the old TV shows, they were written more like theater, and you still have some shows like that, but you also have a whole wealth of content like Stranger Things and Pluribus that's at cinema level production that didn't used to exist.
Right.
And now with the shortened streaming window, that's another reason, and I have to admit, I'm part of the problem. I generally, unless I'm really, really interested in it, like Begonia, I've been wanting to go see because I like that director and it sounds interesting. But in general, yeah, man, like if it's like very drama-ish, I wait for it to come on streaming. I do.
Yeah. Well, that's streaming now too, Begonia.
Is it streaming now?
Yeah. It's also streaming. Yeah.
Well, it's gone most theaters. It might be the only way I can see it now. Theodore Laurie. This is in honor of my dad Kenny's 87th birthday, who is a fan. Oh,
wow.
How awesome.
Huzzah.
His message is keep doing what you're doing. Cheers.
Well, happy birthday, Kenny. Let's have happy birthday for Kenny in the chat. Let's have happy birthdays in the chat. Thanks for watching.
Bonzo Kilborn. When I heard that when good old Pete said all of them, he was talking about podcasters. Keep your head on a swivel.
Head on a swivel, gents.
You never know.
All right, let me take a couple of these.
Yep.
Brianna Joy Gray heavily criticized the politics of one battle after another from a racial angle. Yeah, I saw one episode she did on it. She did 2 on it. I saw the first one, which was the shorter one. Yeah, I didn't see the second one. I did not see the second one. Thank you, Kemen. Old Stoner, stop clutching your pearls. War crimes USA is just normal business. Thank you, Old Stoner. The drunken scoundrel, this is all on purpose. The DOJ will now not have the manpower to investigate financial crimes. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of these authoritarians do is they gut the agencies, right?
Yep.
Vito, thanks for the $50, Vito. Let's have a cowbell for Vito. Just a thought here, but maybe we could improve education, jobs, healthcare, home affordability, and life to end the 100,000 plus illegal drug deaths. Cancer sucks, you all rock. Thank you, Vito. And yes, well said. Of course, as always, Furrows Queen says, considering changing my username to Felching Queen, Furrows Dancer. Also, glad you mentioned cartels as I need to pay off the rest of my holiday to Mexico within the week. Not kidding. Going to see Dave. Oh, wow. Making another trip to Mexico. That's fun. Stoop Sign says, you need people like Maduro's. You could point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. So what that make you? Good? You're not good. You just know how to hide.
I swear to God, I thought about pulling the audio from that clip for that segment.
Really? Wow.
I didn't get to it.
Hey, folks, if you would like to support one of our sponsors, John Coa shares singles A to Z, songs from the tape deck, 34 performed tracks, originals, and covers built on lyrics. First listens land here at the Due Dissidents channel. We've premiered Just a Little Off the Rails, which is his original song, as well as covers of Bob Dylan's Not Dark Yet and Paul Simon's The Boy in the Bubble. When we have more music to debut, we will do that, but right now you can find those tracks from A to Z, songs from the tape deck, at duedissidents.com/Coa. That's the link to his Spotify, his Apple Music, and his YouTube channel. So go and take a listen wherever you find your music, duedissidents.com/Coa. Okay, what do we got over here? We got some business to take care of. We're 3,000 in the YouTube channel. 25. And we are at 1,019 likes. There we go. All righty. Let's take a look. What do we got here? Boom, boom, boom. All right. Good. They're going to bed. What the hell are they doing up? They should be sleeping. Kids came in and get a snack out of the refrigerator, like it's Christmas time or something. It's not Christmas yet. I'm gonna go back to sleep.
Not yet.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a look at what we got here. All right. Very well. Moving right along. Okay, folks. So, this next segment is kind of a story because it started right before Thanksgiving, and we have not, of course, been on since last Tuesday. So this is a story about how a movement that prides itself on being red-pilled about the deep state came to blame a crime that was clearly aided and abetted, if not outright committed by the deep state, on everything and everyone but the deep state. That's kind of what this is a story exemplifying. And it kind of starts here with this video that went kind of viral of members of Congress and the Senate reminding soldiers that they are not obligated to follow illegal military orders. So let's take a look at a little bit of this.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
So that's Mark Kelly. He became the sort of poster boy for this.
Yeah. You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
All right, so you get the picture. So that ruffled some feathers, and our friends over here at the Get Off My Lawn podcast were particularly upset about this. So here is Walter Kern. Walter Kern responding to Mark Kelly.
Mark Kelly should specify what he believes these illegal orders to be, give cases of them, describe them both as they compare to historical illegal orders. In other words, have there been past times in America where this has happened? Or is he talking about Nazi Germany? He better clarify himself. Because if he doesn't clarify himself, and I'm going to just go out on a limb, he belongs in the brig. He belongs in the brig.
Well, the Department of War...
This is not...
Look at Taibbi's face when he says that. So it's such a clearly unhinged comment.
He belongs in the brig.
Look.
Well, the Department of War...
Oh, no. Almost. Sorry, I got to go back a little further.
By himself, and I'm going to just go out on a limb. He belongs in the brig. He belongs in the brig.
Well, the Department of War...
This is not funny. This is, as I went before.
I sympathize with Taibbi a little bit there. He reminds me of me when Russ watches too much Disney. Like, yeah, okay. All right, now I know. All right.
Well, there's a difference. I'm right.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's like, okay, okay, here he goes.
This is Civil War talk. This is Civil War adjacent talk. They are fomenting something, and they're doing it with people and who are 19, 20, who don't understand, but have been thoroughly drilled that they don't have to. Listen, he wasn't the first to tell them that they don't need to follow legal orders. They're told that when they enter the military. They're told that all the time. And the officers certainly are told it. They all know it. His game is cute, but I think he hasn't been called out strongly enough, to be honest. I think it's shocking that he has fellow party members who are supporting this. I think it's shocking that NPR...
What happens when you're like one of the most respected free speech advocates in the modern history of media, and you're talking Tequila Worm co-host? Yeah, you're talking Tequila Worm co-host goes on a rant about how a guy belongs in a military prison for reminding soldiers that they don't have to follow illegal orders. And unless he specifies what he's talking about, he should be thrown in the brig.
Actually went out and did a story on National Guardsmen. I saw it this morning.
Yeah.
Who are confused about their orders.
Yeah, and they're having what is it? They're having chats. They used a very strange word to describe the chats they were having. The encrypted chats. But yeah, go ahead.
And Matt, what were they doing? They were encouraging that. They were modeling, because a lot of reporting is actually suggesting. And the idea that you can have encrypted chats about your orders suddenly is one that probably hasn't struck a lot of people yet.
I don't know. Maybe I should just submit to the audit. It's got to be better than doing this to my reputation and legacy.
Hoping it will. This is the beginning of a breakdown, and we're standing for it. And we're worried about whether or not the punishment for sedition is death. Well, it actually is. I mean, I didn't make that.
Wow.
Wow.
The question is whether this is sedition.
Wow. So you're actually going to validate Donald Trump's tweet, which I believe even the administration had to walk back that he wasn't actually calling for the death of these senators. Wow. That is some great defense of free speech there. So when, of course, the following day, I believe this was, obviously the tragic shooting of these National Guard members in Washington, D.C.
I mean, I'm sorry. Before we move on from that, Walter's like a fucking Nazi punk. Like, what the fuck? Like, when I saw the show when we were covering the Taibbi Barry Weiss thing, I had honestly never seen it. And my first thought was, this is worse than like basic cable from 1987. Like, I can't believe that this is a show. It's just awful. It's just absolutely awful. Like, for what it is, it's awful. There are people who I don't ideologically agree with, who have talent, who do a good version of that show. This is really like you set up a camera at a 12-step meeting and just let cranky, pissed off old men shaking fists at clouds opine about politics.
Well,
like the
that's what I
idea
mean, yeah.
that this is supposed to be a legitimate show representing some kind of an informed analysis is just absolutely bizarre to watch. But then you look at the take. Yeah, Matt is a sad case, man. That is a sad case. As you say, man, he was known for free speech. How do you sit through your partner? We do a podcast together. If we disagree, we say so.
Yeah,
how
no,
do you not speak up?
Yeah, no, it's just insane. It's just really insane. And remember, the IRS owed him money. Would not do so he doesn't have to submit to an audit. Yeah,
that's what he says.
So this is all on the up and up, which I totally believe him, but that almost makes it a little bit more pitiful.
Much worse
because makes it more pitiful. Because like if like we pregame the show, like if Russ was going to say, hey, you know what, my take on this is that if Mark Kelly doesn't clarify what he means by the military doesn't have to obey illegal orders, I'm going to say that he belongs in jail, and I'm going to validate the president's death threat against him. I would tell him, first I would ask if he started any new medication, but then I would tell him, I would say, all right, well, if you say that, I'm going to push back on it, and we're going to have to debate it a little bit.
Yeah, that's happened in the past.
Yeah,
that's happened. We just pre-gamed it. Like, that's going to be my take, and I'll give you some space, and you can give your rebuttal, and we work it out.
Right. You don't just sit there as he goes on a fucking tear. I mean, that guy, he's unhinged. He's an unhinged lunatic to say that he belongs in jail for reminding the military that they don't have to follow illegal orders. And he goes on, in that episode. You can watch the whole thing if you like Racket News. But anyway, I think this was the day after that episode aired that this horrible tragedy happens in D.C. where 2 National Guard members are shot, killed. And Walter Kern says, this happened after my post of this morning warning of such stuff. That's how rapidly and predictably the business is unfolding. So basically what he's saying is that the Democrats' rhetoric incited this shooting. Yeah. And the episode, I think, aired the previous day. But, he posted about it on X that morning. Of course, that was then immediately complicated by the development that the shooter was an Afghan national who came to the U.S. in 2021, ID'd as alleged terrorist gunman in shooting of 2 National Guard members in D.C. And so once that happens, of course, the narrative changes in MAGA world from leftist rhetoric was to blame for this to Islam is to blame for this. And Gen X Girl did a great compilation. We'll mute the music for copyright purposes, but you could see in real time, there's Eric Doherty 4 hours ago, then to 2 hours ago. Leftist rhetoric highlighted, Islam is a huge threat highlighted. They just changed the script. Doesn't matter what's true at all. Doesn't matter what the social consequences of this are. Nick Sorter, same thing. Democrat rhetoric did this to, we have millions of people here who want us dead. So basically changing this because the leftist rhetoric thing was deflated by the fact that he's Muslim. And he can go. The shooting occurred in the context of Democrats and leftists saying the National Guard troops are following illegal orders too, as in Europe with its numerous deadly terrorist attacks, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Benny Johnson, Democrats, just 2 days ago, Democrats said he was issuing unlawful orders too. Now, of course, it's Afghan nationals and Muslims to blame. So you get the point. So the leftist rhetoric thing, so the whole rant that Walter Kern went on, he took a lot of credit for predicting that until the narrative changed. And now, of course, it goes from being a leftist rhetoric problem to a Muslim problem. And now they, of course, dial up the indignation and the outrage, right? So Jane Mayer...
And just when you look at that, no organic person with real opinions behaves that way. No person who's not a pro, who's just giving false opinions for hire, would act like that.
Well, if you're a decent person who doesn't want to just, run your mouth without knowing what you're talking about because you actually have concern for the implications of your speech, you kind of wait for information to come in, or the truth, right? You wait for information to come in and you dole it out as you receive it and vet it and confirm it to make sure that you're being constructive and that you're not agitating for social unrest, right? But that's not the business that these people are in. So Jane Mayer says, this is so tragic, referring to the shooting, so unnecessary. These poor guardsmen should never have been deployed. I live in D.C. and watched as they had virtually nothing to do but pick up trash. It was for political show, and at what a cost. So as you can see, that gets ratioed as if she was blaming the guardsmen for their own death, which of course she was not. She had a reaction that I think is pretty mainstream, which is look at all this chaos that's being brought upon the country. Nobody's lives are getting any better. Why did this have to happen? Why were they even there? If they weren't there, this wouldn't have happened. Why are we creating this tension? That's not excusing the shooting. It obviously is a horrible, despicable act. It's not blaming the victim. These guards members, these military personnel, in my experience, military people interpersonally have always been super generous and selfless and service-oriented. She was not saying anything to the effect of they deserved it or it's their fault or nothing. She's just saying, man, this really should not, so many things could have transpired such that this wouldn't have happened. What a shame that everything transpired the exact wrong way. That's all she said. But of course, Matt Pickme Van Swall says the shooter is responsible for shooting the National Guard. She did not say he wasn't. The National Guard is not responsible for getting shot for just existing. Again, she didn't say that. Again, these are just people who jump on the outrage in order to agitate for as much social instability as possible. Kyle Lamb, it's their fault for being there. Did not say that. She did not say that. It's quite a disgusting take. That was not her take. Representative Mike Collins, apologize and repent. For what? For saying this should not have happened? For saying there were a lot of decisions made along the way that could have prevented this and none were made that way? Megyn Kelly, Jane, delete this post. Again, just ginning up outrage for nothing. Mays says if you have a job, you should be fired for
Kelly,
this.
Wasn't she 2 weeks ago talking about how attraction to 15-year-olds wasn't actually
pedophilia?
PDF?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mays says if you have a job, you should be fired for this. It's that sick. What's sick? What is sick? Nothing she said was sick. She didn't blame the victim. She didn't say anything offensive at all. Nothing. If you don't believe me, believe the victim's boyfriend.
It's the Jerry Springerization of society.
Yeah.
Everything is ginning up an audience to point a finger and feel morally superior.
Right. Right. It's all about just getting engagement. It's just engagement farming
Yep.
at whatever
Yep.
cost, does not matter.
Yep.
Here's
Yep.
the boyfriend of the guardswoman who was killed.
And other things regarding his treatment. In the meantime, our colleague Gabe Cohen spoke to a gentleman named Andrew Carr, who is the former boyfriend of Sarah Beckstrom, the guard member who was killed in the shooting. They lived in West Virginia, and Gabe asked the former boyfriend what Sarah Beckstrom felt about her deployment to Washington. Take a listen.
Did she believe in the mission of being there? Did she think it was important, or did she think they didn't belong there, the West Virginia National Guard?
It was mixed. She got deputized in there, and they gave them no rights to do anything. She was like, people spit towards us, cuss at us, throw things at us, and we can't do nothing. She couldn't detain nobody. She couldn't stop them from doing wrong. It was like they told them to call the cops. She wanted to make the difference. She wanted to extremely. She was happy with it. And she just was also like, why am I here if I can't do nothing? Where they limited them so much, she's like, it's pointless. She's like, I get why we're here, crime's bad, but it's pointless if we can't do anything.
Okay, so she believed in the mission, but at the same time felt that she couldn't really do anything. So you could interpret pretty fairly from that they were there as a political show of force, right? I'm not putting words in her mouth. I'm not saying she meant that. I'm saying when you watch that, you kind of glean from that a similar meaning to the Jane Mayer tweet that got the chuds all up in arms, right? Which is that ultimately, what were they doing there, right? That's not victim blaming. There's nothing controversial about that unless you're trying to gin up a fake controversy, right? What nobody seems to want to talk about is this. So here's another development. Lara Logan tweets out, urgent, is the CIA behind the murder of 2 U.S. soldiers near the White House? Did they direct or orchestrate this act of war? Take a close look at the gunman's ID card below. Add to this, he was a member of the Kandahar Strike Force, a CIA-backed paramilitary unit. He's one of theirs. That's right. The CIA then confirmed that suspect in Washington, D.C. National Guard shooting had ties to CIA. Agency confirms, reports The Guardian. The suspected shooter of 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday worked with CIA-backed military units during the U.S. war in Afghanistan, the agency has confirmed. The alleged gunman, identified as Ramanullah Lakhanwal, 29, came to the U.S. in September of 2021 under an Operation Allies Welcome program that gave some Afghans who had worked for the U.S. government entry visas into the U.S. He was granted asylum in April this year under the Trump administration, Reuters reported. Lakhanwal's ties to the Central Intelligence Agency, which worked alongside U.S. Special Forces in Afghanistan, were confirmed by the CIA director, John Ratcliffe, to media outlets. The Biden administration justified bringing the alleged shooter to the United States in September 2021 due to his prior work with the U.S. government, including CIA, Ratcliffe told Fox News Digital, adding that Lakhanwal's involvement with the agency was as a member of a partner force in Kandahar, which ended shortly following the chaotic evacuation. The 2 victims in the attack were named as Sarah Beckstrom, 20, and Andrew Wolf, 24. Both are members of the West Virginia National Guard. Beckstrom succumbed to her injuries on Thursday evening, Donald Trump said. Beckstrom's father had told the New York Times in a phone call earlier in the day that his daughter was unlikely to recover. I'm holding her hand right now, Gary Beckstrom said. She has a mortal wound. It's not going to be a recovery. Wolf was fighting for his life, according to the president. Both Beckstrom and Wolf had both been sworn into service less than 24 hours before they were ambushed at a bus stop by the suspect. So obviously, just an absolutely gut-wrenching, horrible story. So Trump then publishes his, Thanksgiving Day opus here, with the end being, even as we have progressed technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country, end all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal auto pen approval process. Only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, except those that hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. So now the line that they're on, we're going to get more into this in detail in the next segment, is remigration. And this is in response to the shooting, because the guy came from Afghanistan. Of course, nobody wants to talk about that he was CIA trained. No one wants to mention that. Homeland Security says the stakes have never been higher and the goal has never been more clear. Remigration now. Steve Laws says U.S. Homeland Security calling for remigration now is a huge meta-political victory. We have a very long way to go, but they've just normalized the term. Remigration is mainstream. This is basically a Nazi term, by the way, as we're going to get into detail more in the next segment. So Trump then tweeted, which was then reposted by the official White House account, Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 212F, whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. So Jack Posobiec loves this. They all have to go. The families, too. Tear up the visas. Send them back. So here's Donald Trump being asked about the vetting or lack of vetting of the shooter.
A question about this tragic shooting in Washington, D.C. U.S. officials say that the suspect worked very closely with the CIA in Afghanistan for years, that he was vetted, and the vetting came up clean.
He went cuckoo. I mean, he went nuts. And that happens, too. It happens too often with these people. You see them. But look, this is how they come in. This is how they're standing on top of each other, and that's an airplane. There was no vetting or anything. They came in unvetted. And we have a lot of others in this country. We're going to get them out. But they go cuckoo. Something happens to them.
Your DOJ IG just reported this year that there was thorough vetting by DHS and by the FBI of these Afghans who were brought into the U.S. So why do you blame the Biden administration for what this man did?
Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? Because they came on a plane along with thousands of other people that shouldn't be here.
Yeah, they just stand
and
there.
you're just asking questions because you're a stupid person. And
Jesus
there's a law passed that it's almost impossible not to get them out. You can't get them out once they come in. And they came in, and they were unvetted, they were unchecked. There were many of them.
Okay, this line about them being unvetted, which we'll get to. Don't forget, he was trained by the CIA.
Fucking CIA.
He was trained by the CIA. That's like saying Frankenstein's monster was unvetted. Like, what are you talking about? He was a creation of the deep state. It's a creation of the CIA, unvetted. So here's Kristi Noem trying to blame this on the Biden administration for not vetting him properly, even though they did grant him asylum in April.
You said that he was radicalized here in the United States. He was admitted to this country by the Biden administration. That's 100% correct, 2021. But he was granted asylum by the Trump administration in April. So did you see any red flags?
If you remember, John.
Yeah, did you see any red flags?
John, all the information that was gathered on that vetting process was gathered under the Biden administration. His asylum claim application started under the Biden administration. That information was provided by them, and the responsibility lies with them. And we need to know that and speak the truth of how this entire process happened so that we can fix it.
Are
That's
you
what President
saying-
Trump has been doing and dedicated to, is that when we look at people who deserve asylum, they have to be thoroughly vetted. They weren't under the last administration. That has completely changed under President Trump.
But again, he was granted asylum in April, so President Trump had already been in office for several months. You had been in office. Are you saying there was no vetting done by the Trump administration? You were simply relying on what had been done under the Biden administration? You did no vetting before granting him asylum?
The processes were put in place using information that was gathered during the application process that happened under Joe Biden. And that has been completely fixed. And new metrics and new processes have been added under President Trump. He immediately went to work, and we put in place under USCIS the new data and new information that can be gathered, such as...
Well, not that immediately. I mean, it was April. So when did this start? When did things start becoming your problem? Right. See, it seems like you want to kind of like start the timeline at a very convenient place. Right. As you can see, he's kind of talking around that. So is Pam Bondi. Here is Pam Bondi talking about the Operation Allies Welcome Program.
Operation Allies Welcome Program, minimal to little vetting. I was on the phone last night with Secretary Kristi Noem at length. They did not do biometrics. They did not do social media. They did very little, if minimal, vetting on all of these people. And now to take a step back, we have a 1.5 million backlog of people that have come into our country. And as you said, these people are being radicalized. We know that this shooter who shot our National Guardsman in D.C. the day before Thanksgiving, he was radicalized. You're going to hear a lot more about that. And these...
I'd be curious to hear a lot more about that. Like radicalized where? You mean radicalized in Afghanistan by the CIA, who recruited him into what human rights groups call a death squad? So let's take a look at this. So DD Geopolitics did a pretty good summary. Everyone is spinning the Lackenwall D.C. shooting into a left-right blame war. The facts don't allow for that. Here's what's actually documented. He entered the U.S. on a special immigrant visa during Operation Allies Refuge, a process that began under Trump, was executed during the Biden withdrawal, and was supported by bipartisan votes in Congress. Yeah, like if you can blame this on Biden insofar as that the withdrawal was extremely chaotic and ill-planned, and it resulted in maybe a lot of people coming here who shouldn't have because everything was done so hastily. Like, that's a fair criticism. But you granted him asylum, and if you're blaming the root cause of this first on leftist rhetoric, then on Islam, and then on immigration, you're really ignoring the elephant in the room, which is the deep state, the CIA. He entered...
This is going to be a very rare event on this show. I'm going to throw Biden a lifeline. If you remember how much pushback he was getting from all quarters, including the media, at the trying to turn it into a women's rights issue,
right.
He might have felt like if he didn't move, they were going to build enough momentum that he couldn't do it.
Got to move fast, Jack. Maybe.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Like they
possible.
were really, really pushing to stop that from happening.
So he filed for asylum in late 2024 and was approved in April 2025 under the current administration. But asylum adjudication is handled by career officers following laws written and funded by multiple administrations. Both parties expanded, supported, or failed to reform the SIV and asylum systems that allowed this case to unfold the way it did. Trying to turn this into a partisan attack misses the real issue, because this wasn't a Democrat failure or a Republican failure. It was a system failure decades in the making, and both sides helped build the system. Bush started the war, Obama continued it, Trump expanded the SIV pipeline, Biden executed the withdrawal and processed the evacuees, Congress funded it under all four. If people want accountability, start with the policies, not the tribal talking points. I think that's very well said. Now let's take a look at what the root cause of this actually is. Because we've heard a lot of stories about what is to blame for this. What were the Afghan Zero units that sources say the National Guard shooting suspect worked for? An image of an ID badge circulating widely online that shows the suspect in the shooting of the National Guard members says he was assigned to the Kandahar Strike Force, or 03 unit, one of a number of so-called Zero units that worked closely with the U.S. and other foreign forces during the war in Afghanistan. A former senior Afghan military source confirmed to CBS News that the ID badge is authentic. A U.S. official briefed on the shooting investigation and a former senior Afghan National Defense and Security Forces member told CBS News that the suspect, Remigration Lakhanwal, had been part of a Zero unit, an Afghan intelligence unit and paramilitary force that worked with the CIA. The units were exclusively composed of Afghan nationals and operated under the umbrella of the National Directorate of Security, or NDS, the intelligence agency established within the CIA, with CIA backing, for Afghanistan's previous U.S.-backed government. They were considered by the U.S. and its international partners to be among the most trusted domestic forces in Afghanistan. Those units are often labeled death squads by human rights groups. The units were known in Afghanistan for their secrecy and alleged brutality, and members were implicated in numerous extrajudicial killings of civilians, particularly during night raids. The U.S. official briefed on the investigation confirmed the suspect had been disturbed by the casualties in this unit and more recently deeply troubled by the killing of his close friend overseas. So what we know for sure is that the guy was a CIA asset who was psychologically traumatized by his participation in these quote-unquote death squads for having committed, as we can imagine, multiple violent offenses against his own people. We know that for sure. So once again, for a movement that considers itself so red-pilled about the evils and the horrors of the deep state, you seem to want to ignore the very obvious culprit of this, which is the deep state. It was the deep state that recruited this guy at a young age, brainwashed him, made him commit all of these horrible crimes, clearly fucked him up, and he snapped. So this is clearly a crime aided and abetted by the deep state. We know that for sure. Now, of course, you add to that speculation breaking thread. The D.C. Guardsman shooting isn't adding up. Shooter Remigration Lakhanwal, CIA-backed Kandahar Strike Force vet, skip the parentheticals here, ambushed two unarmed guardsmen at 2:15 yesterday, yelling Allahu Akbar. Critical but alive. But Google Trends, his name spiked in D.C. at 2:24 a.m., 3:28 a.m., 8 a.m., hours before shots fired. For knowledge, we need to subpoena the IPs. Lara Logan, the spike in searches of this person's name in the hours before the attack means the people who knew this was going to happen were searching to see if he had completed his task. A known CIA asset who was a trained member of a covert unit of assassins. Make no mistake, whether he came to the U.S. on an SIV visa or humanitarian parole, he has a sponsor, handler, and a detailed dossier. They know exactly who he is. The question is, who was he working for on this operation? Those are questions. That is suspicious timing that his name was searched hours in advance of the shooting. So you always have an added layer of mystery. But we can go just based on the facts here. We can go just based on what we know. Just based on what we know is true. We know the guy was recruited as essentially a kid to commit horrible acts of violence during the 20-year war and occupation of his country. And we know he committed this horrible act. We know the guy was psychologically fucked up. And this is from Trump's mouth. He went cuckoo. We know that's true. We don't even have to go into the speculation about the Google searches and all that stuff as to whether or not this was an orchestrated false flag or inside job. We don't even have to speculate that. We know enough in terms of what is provable to know that this was not a problem of Democrats' rhetoric. This was not a problem of Islam, and this was not a problem of immigration. This is a problem of imperialism and deep state fuckery. That is what created this man who committed this horrible crime. But for a movement, once again, that considers itself so hostile to the deep state, they really seem to be running cover for the deep state because none of these MAGA chuds want to talk about the fact that the CIA groomed this kid into a psychotic murderer. That is what happened. We know that's what happened. There's no question about that that's what happened. Yet they want to blame everyone else. Why? Because they're fucking liars who are interested in destroying their political opposition, demonizing Muslims, and yes, purging the country of non-whites. That's what this remigration is about, which we'll get more into in the next segment. That's what their motives are. Notice what takes precedence over the other. The war against the deep state, that takes a back seat when it's time to gin up the racism, is essentially what this boils down to in the end.
Yeah, I saw some reports that he said I should have worked for the Taliban. They worked for the wrong side. Yeah, you really see that when you look at Kash Patel's government gangsters. That was one of the things that really struck me, that he wasn't really interested in cleaning up the deep state, because nobody who says the deep state is more Democrat, so we have to go after you're not serious. At that point, you're not serious. By definition, the deep state is not partisan. That's why you call it the deep state. It's permanent. It transcends changes in party and administration. By definition, it has its own agenda. It's not a Democrat thing. But because people who got drawn into this, MAGA world, absorbed this kind of framing, that's why they're not going there. In the end, it was always a pretense to attack Trump's enemies. That's what it was always directed at. If there's no framing directed at Trump's enemies, they're not interested in that framing. But yeah, obviously. But as we said in the previous segment, the more serious and honest MAGA people have walked away already. Those people do realize this is a CIA operation that created this. You're just left with the dregs now. But where it is fucking dangerous, you can really see this concerted effort to create a white nationalist movement, man. Like, Elon has just been almost everything coming out of Elon now is about white victimhood. White people, he's posting about the Ukrainian girl who was killed on the bus, just everything. Why aren't they reporting there was some murder that the chuds are talking about that was committed by blacks against a white person? Elon Musk is sharing out statistics of more whites being killed by blacks. Why? Why all of a sudden? It seems very coordinated. And when you look at that evidence that they were searching this name ahead of time, and you look at what they're doing with this, it's part of an overall agenda. These people are fucking Nazis. This is a coalition of Jewish supremacists who believe very much in a Jewish supremacist ethno-state like Stephen Miller, and straight up original Coke flavor white supremacists like Elon, like Donald Trump. And they're working together to get brown people out of the country, man. And we certainly considered that kind of rhetoric overheated and, Democrat propaganda until this second term. I mean, you can't deny what they've done. The first term, I just didn't buy it. Yeah, Trump's a racist, so is Joe Biden. So are the Clintons, for that matter. All these people are fucking
right, of course, yeah.
So I didn't really consider that much of an argument. But this time around, you can't deny it. They came in this time with a plan, and that plan is really a Nazi fascist plan, and you can see it with everything that they do. And just like with Charlie Kirk, it would not surprise me if they shut off this feature where you can look up searches, because people keep finding this stuff after these assassinations. It's kind of scary how much this looks like a coordinated plan to sow chaos. Every few months, they sow chaos with an incident like this and use it to justify a fascist, truly white supremacist agenda. This is no fucking around. This isn't Robin DiAngelo ranting about white people not wanting to sit with the black people on the bus. This is for real, man. This is real. What else do you call it?
Well, it's not working. I mean, this is the thing, and this is where they're miscalculating. It's not working. We've already passed the tipping point. Like I said this a couple weeks ago. You're past the tipping point where the public is just rejecting this. I expect the next round of poll numbers to have Trump's favorability numbers lower than they are now, because when shit like this happens, as much as Jane Mayer got shit for that tweet, I think that her tweet reflects the mainstream sentiment, which is that
Well,
look at
remember
all,
who's on X.
well, who's on X, right? Look at all this chaos that's being sown. Look at all this strife. Look at all of this horrible shit. Whose lives are actually getting better? Like, what is this administration doing to make anybody's lives better?
You wait until the ACA subsidies go.
Like, you, as it is now, right? Even before the big beautiful bill stuff, you look as it is now. People answer polls: are you better or worse off than you were a year ago? You're having 70% of people saying that they're worse off, and I believe that half of the people who say they're not are just Trump loyalists who don't want to answer a poll in a way that's going to be embarrassing to daddy. Right. I think if people are being honest, it's more like 80 to 90% of people saying that they're worse off. And the average person understands that. And I think you're dealing with certain cross sections of people. I think like there's obviously a certain cohort of the population that sees this and likes this. Right. And that's what's left of the Trump base. But then I think a much larger concentric circle around that is people who are not into this, who maybe didn't take seriously the threat of this, but who are like willing to take a flyer on Trump because Biden was so horrible, and if the economy will get better, yeah, we can deal with his crazy rhetoric and shit like this. If there is a payoff to it. But this is where they have miscalculated. They're not giving anybody any payoff to it. They're closing Tyson plants in Nebraska and importing beef from Argentina. So once you make that, once you screw people over in that way, this stuff just doesn't play. This is a non-starter at this point. This is why I'm saying,
they'll go along with it if their lives are improving, because then they'll make that connection.
some people will say, yeah, you know what? Hey, yeah, it's a price of doing business, whatever. I'm not defending. I'm just saying that's the reality of it. But once you screw people over as hard as they have, there is no way for them to reverse this trend of just spiraling support. Which is why I say there is no real legitimate way they can hang on to any kind of political power. If democracy is able to function, they will be driven out of power. This is a losing movement absent a total flipping of the board, right? Which is a concern, obviously. I'm not going to say it isn't. But it's not working out as planned because people are rejecting this en masse. So that is the good news. All right. Freddie X, RFK to assistant. Give a listen to these two dissidents, guys. It could be a 2-page summary. My grandniece says they mention me a lot, and I understand there's a good bit of felching content. Thank you, Freddie X. Appreciate that. Doc Durkin, the Venezuela war has already burned $15 billion. And with regards to narco terror, the CIA has been helping and funding the Mexican drug cartels for some time. They're Latin Al-Qaeda. Thank you, Doc Durkin. Kemen says, I want to hate Walter Kern and laugh at him, but then I remember he wrote Up in the Air and has some talent. That was a good movie, and I'm assuming the book was good too. Had. He's now doing the he's now gonna do a novel of Gran Torino. Is that the one where he says get off my lawn? Is that the one about Clint Eastwood? He's gonna readapt that. It's Vito P. Gore Vidal once called Hemingway a hopeless writer. I would like to express the same thought about Walter Kern. Cancer sucks, you all rock. Thank you very much, Vito. Appreciate that. All right, why don't we take some super chats here?
Sleepy Rod, would you guys consider having Ben Norton on? Why wouldn't we?
Well, Max Blumenthal's father might drone bomb our house. That's why.
Oh, is that?
Just kidding. I know they had a dispute. Yeah.
Still, though.
I mean, we'll make as long as he has your address, we can do it.
There you
go.
Yeah. Just give him a PO box.
Yeah, just give him.
Take a pick, 1313. Love to see South Park do an episode with a cameo of you two, called Jew Dissidents. Yeah. Maybe one of these days, man. We have 1 degree of separation. We know the guy who did Slam Frank now.
Yeah.
John Olmsted. I find it very hard to take anyone calling themselves ANCAP seriously. Guys seem nice, but those ideologies don't mix.
Who you talking about? Rechtenwald?
He's talking about Rechtenwald.
Yeah, look, I mean, the reason I broached that with Rechtenwald is because he's one of the very few libertarians who actually takes like socialism kind of seriously. Like most of these libertarians are just completely dismissive.
I think we
of that.
flipped him.
Yeah, we may have flipped him, but you know, he was open minded about it, and yeah, so I prodded him about it. I mean, you know, I thought it was a good conversation.
Pete Walker, Pentagon illegal bombs fishing boats. What illegal orders? Walter Kerr. What a fucking clown. What a clown.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. I meant it's a good thank you for saying that. I meant to say that. So talk about a take that aged like milk. He's like, what illegal orders could they be mentioning? Oh, you mean like, I don't know, the Secretary of Defense telling the military to kill them all on a Venezuelan fishing boat? Yeah, there's an example.
This is what I'm saying. Okay. All right. I think this is why that show is so fucking bad. People who are just on the grift, you know, they just kind of ride the waves, as you showed, right? One day it's this, the next day it's that. Kern and Taibbi think of themselves as above that. They don't think of themselves as grifters, but they just have fucking awful takes. So they're not nimble enough to get out of their awful takes. So what do you have to do at that point? You got to double and triple down on your awful takes. It just makes the entire show fucking batshit insane. Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's like watching a crazy dude at a 12-step meeting.
Yeah,
with his lobotomized nephew nodding along. That's why he wears the cap. It's to hide the scars. He has that McMurphy scar up there. Take a pick. Terrorist was recruited by CIA at 15 to join the Afghan equivalent. He could not stay there. He would be dead. Info from Sabby Sabs. Yeah, of course he would be dead.
Yeah.
Thundaga. 2 years ago, I had the peasant mind that Russell talks about a lot. Thanks to you guys, I threw off the chains. Best show on the internet. I love to hear that, man.
Thank you. That's great to hear.
That is amazing. Thank you. All right, I'll do one more. Gilbram. The U.S. is under attack by Marco the terrorist. Oops, I meant narco terrorist. Good one. I like what you did there.
All right. We will move right on along here. All right. So the word of the day, folks, is remigration. Talking remigration blues. Holy crap. Trump's doing it. There will be remigration.
Get to the station.
Yeah. So here's Donald Trump truthing this out. Donald Trump truths out a quote from the Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 212. Whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. So let's have a brief history lesson here about remigration. This is Millennium Mia on TikTok. I thought she broke this down decently well. She says she's a former history teacher. Seems kind of young to be a former history teacher. Maybe they weren't paying her enough. Well, let's take a look.
Tweet from Homeland Security is so dangerous, calling for remigration. As a former history teacher, let me explain to you why you need to understand the context and use of that term specifically and what it could mean for the United States. Also, we told you this would happen, but let's get to the history and how it's even being used today in Europe. Let's start by going back in time to Germany in the 1930s. I know, not the best place to time travel to, but you need to understand what the Madagascar Plan was. This was a plan set up by the Yahtzee government that intended to solve the Jewish question.
So she's dodging the TikTok censors there with the word Yahtzee. We all know what that rhymes with, right?
Yep. Historical educational purposes only. Their plan was to deport them to the island of Madagascar, just to get rid of them entirely, because again, it was all about ethnic cleansing. They wanted pure Germans, and that population, well, they weren't really German. In fact, they didn't even see them as human, so the best solution was to get rid of them. Now are you starting to see why it's so dangerous that Homeland Security is using that term remigration? And it's also picked up steam recently in Europe. Let's go to Italy, where Giorgia Meloni, the current prime minister, is advocating for these policies and even put them into place. And just to be clear, this is taking off throughout Europe, not just Italy. It has been propagated by far-right groups across the continent over the past several years. But Italy is where it's actually starting to take off, as it were, because they do not have birthright citizenship. Being born in Italy does not guarantee you the right to live there or become a citizen. Unlike the United States, where we have the 14th Amendment and the protection of birthright citizenship. And by the way, the current administration is challenging that. They want to strip people of their citizenship and get rid of birthright citizenship to make it like Italy. So even if you have legal status here, you're living in a country legally like Italy, and you have a child there, that child is not guaranteed citizenship or even legal status. And in Italy, people are concerned that their children, even though they are there completely legally, could be deported to a country that they have never seen or known.
So basically, if you come from a bad place, or if your parents came from a bad place and had you, they want to reserve the right to just get rid of you if they want. That is the long and short of this remigration. So the Department of Labor tweeted out this this photo of Abraham Lincoln. Americanism will prevail. Wow. Holy shit. I didn't know Daryl Cooper was head of the Department of Labor and using it to promote his new podcast. That's got to be against the rules, right? So what a coincidence. They used 11 stars.
He's still working for the DOD.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What a coincidence. They used 11 stars, just like the racist loser Confederacy, over President Lincoln's head. What a coincidence they used Germanic font like the racist loser Third Reich. What a coincidence. Yeah, that is a pretty clear, unmistakable signal, I think. So here's Evan Lovesworth. Remigration is the far-right euphemism for ethnic cleansing. That sounds nicer. Pardon me. So here's Elon Musk. Remigration is the only way, in response to Steve Laws, who we featured in the last segment. Go anywhere in the UK and look around. You'll just see foreigners everywhere. It's truly sickening the damage has been done to our nation and our people. Lazy B says,
And I was just there. They were eating that jellied squid. I promise you. Nobody who's not British is eating that shit.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There still must be enough native Brits there if those places are in business, right? So Lazy B, and this is a tactic that some people are trying to use. Actually, the real ethnic cleansing is the immigration to the United States, which clearly they do not understand what ethnic cleansing means. Ethnic cleansing is what's happening right now in America, Europe, Australia, and Canada, but you are just too woke and stupid to see it. No, ethnic cleansing by definition means that you're making it, you're purifying, right? You're making less diverse, hence the term cleansing, right? So I understand the point you're trying to make. It's a very stupid point, but even by its own logic, it fails. No, that is not what you would call.
Are you saying these people are stupid?
Yeah, right. It's not what you. I understand. I understand the racist point you're trying to make, but you're too stupid to even make it well. Remigration is protecting the natural and ethnic native citizens from third world violent criminals that leech off taxpayers and terrorize citizens. Leftists are clowns. They think it's okay to ethnically cleanse a country, but only with non-white people. They're self-hate and suicidal. No, ethnically cleansing would be, once again, what that would mean is that you bring the non-whites in and you force the whites out to make it purely non-white, hence the term cleanse. Again,
they think that's what's happening to them, though.
They think, this is linked to Great Replacement.
So the white genocide.
Yeah, the white genocide, all that stuff, right. So Jack Posobiec says, the left says reverse migration is ethnic cleansing. If sending migrants back is ethnic cleansing, then what was the mass migration project all along? It was the opposite of ethnic cleansing. Like, again, you're not even making these points well. Like, again, that is a complete non-statement.
These masks are coming off faster than eyes wide shut, man.
That's right. That's right. But the word from the government is, remigration, we don't really know what that means, right? Getting a little cold feet here from Kristi Noem for a minute anyway.
On Thursday, quote, only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. On Friday, DHS posted, quote, remigration now, As you probably know, this term has been used in different situations, but including by the far right in Europe to call for the mass deportation of non-white immigrants. How specifically does the Trump administration define remigration?
Well, President Trump has been working towards cleaning up the mess that Joe Biden left us ever since he came into the White House.
But how do you
Not
define
answering
that
your
word,
question.
Secretary Noem? How do you define that word?
15. Well, first of all, we have criminal illegal aliens we've been targeting since day one. We have removed millions
Not
of people
answering
from
the
this
question.
country already just in the few short months that President Trump has been president by making sure we're going after criminal illegal aliens that are murderers, rapists, and criminals and getting them out of our country, bringing them to justice, and then encouraging people to go home. If you're here illegally and breaking our laws, you can leave now, and you may get the opportunity to come back someday. But if you wait until we detain you, and we will deport you, and you'll never get the chance to come back to America and visit us or become a citizen. We're going to continue to do that, go after those criminals, go after those individuals that came in under programs that were broken on the Biden administration and people who were in place and leadership in that crazy 4 worlds we lived through, 4 years we lived through before President Trump came in. Thank God we have a president now that recognizes that letting all of these people into our country that we don't know who they are is dangerous. That we
So notice
If you have the type of subcutaneous fat that I can use for my lip filler, then we might let you stay.
We might let you stay. Exactly. That's the kind of vetting she's into, right? But anyway, she lets it slip a bit later. She gets pressed on it. Is the administration ending all legal immigration into the United States?
Is responding. President Trump on Thursday promised to, quote, permanently pause migration from all third world countries. Is the administration ending all legal immigration into the United States?
The president is absolutely determined to stop all processes at this point in time from third world countries until we can have a thorough opportunity to go through these individuals, know that they're here for the right intentions, and that they even should be in our country to begin with. He's putting Americans first, their safety first, and these third world countries don't have stable governments. They can't sustain them.
Why
They
not?
can't tell us who they are, and that's really the consequence of what we're seeing unfold with the violence on our streets is because these countries that people have been traveling to our shores from for so many years under the Biden administration, their governments didn't tell us who they were. We don't have a proper vetting process. So that's one of the things I'm so grateful for is that President Trump has been bold enough to say, you know what, we're going to stop. We're not going to allow this to continue until we have a process in place that ensures that it actually has integrity for people that will protect us and keep us safe.
Will the director?
All right, here's Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri saying this mass migration we've seen needs to be met with mass deportations. So here he is kind of deflecting, but then, of course, falling back on the Western civilization argument.
Enough of it is one of the big reasons they sent President Trump back to the Oval Office. He campaigned on this. So this mass migration we've seen needs to be met with mass deportations. 20 million people came here illegally. There's flaws in our legal immigration system. I think this is a real kind of civilizational issue for us here in the West. They're dealing with it in Europe. It's had tragic consequences there. And I think if we get ahead of this in this country, we'll be okay. But the left is hell-bent, I think, on this open borders policy. And then if you come here illegally, you're never, ever supposed to leave. It's ridiculous.
All right. So how about the federal attorney from New Jersey, Alina Baba? Let's hear her.
Process. We were allowing open borders. We were allowing criminals to come into our country. And then there were individuals that were saying that this should be a safe harbor, a safe haven. Why? America is America because we protect our own. We don't allow this to happen. So when you say we, I want to be very clear. It is not a we. It is not the Trump administration. It was not Trump 1, and it is most certainly not Trump administration that is currently happening.
Okay. Shout out to Ron Filipowski for noting Alina Haba's parents emigrated to the U.S. from Iraq, citing persecution. So talk about pulling up the ladder behind you, right?
What a whore.
No safe harbor. No safe harbor. Now here is Eric Doherty. Well, let's hear what Tom Homan says, saying that, a lot of people who are here from third world countries are going to end up being deported because we don't know who they are. So now you're not just deported for committing crimes, but you're being deported for being from a bad place. where we can't trust you because we can't trust that you were vetted properly.
These third world nations, they don't have systems like we do. So a lot of these Afghanistans, when they did get here and get vetted, they had no identification at all. Not a single travel document, not one piece of identification. And we're going to count on the people that run Afghanistan, the Taliban, to provide us any information who the bad guys were or who the good guys are? Certainly not. And
once again, this guy, the shooting of the National Guard, which was the impetus for this new policy now of remigration, was groomed by the CIA. Okay, that's what this is in response to a CIA asset snapping. That's what this is all in response to.
People need to understand that most terrorists in this world, most of them, aren't in any database. Because unless they were found on a battlefield by DOD when did a retina scan and did biometrics there, unless you're part of a T3 undercover investigation, we don't know who they are. So, and the same thing with illegal aliens, that over 10 million that came across the border in Joe Biden. There's no way to vet these people. You think El Salvador or Turkey or Sudan or any of these countries have the databases or system checks that we have? Do you think the government of China, Russia, Turkey, you think they're going to share that data with us even if they did have it?
Okay, so people need to understand what they're saying. What they're now talking about is not just deporting illegal immigrants. They're talking about deporting legal immigrants, people who are here legally, but who are from bad places, whose vetting systems we don't trust. So now basically, if you're from a third world country, even if you're here legally, they are claiming the right to deport you. That's what they're saying they can do now. So here's Ella Maulding expressing joy about this.
These people here. President Trump just called for an end to all third world migration into America. We've been waiting on this since we elected him in 2016. On Wednesday.
Well, there you go. We've been waiting on this since we elected him in 2016. Talk about mask off. We've been waiting 10 years to just come out and say how racist we are and how we don't want anybody from any bad places here, whether they're here legally, illegally, born here to parents who came here. It doesn't matter. If you're from a bad place, you need to leave.
An Afghan refugee walked up to two National Guard soldiers at the White House metro stop and shot them both in the head.
Right, a guy who was groomed into, psychotic murder by our CIA. That's again. This is these are the red-pilled people who rant about the deep state while Joe Biden is in office, but they have no interest in that minor detail now. No interest in emphasizing that whatsoever.
One soldier he shot, a 20-year-old girl from West Virginia, has died, and the other is in critical condition. The perpetrator, Ramanullah Lakanwal, arrived in the United States in Joe Biden's Operation Allies Welcome Plan in 2021 that unleashed 90,000 immigrants into America. We are tired of hearing
89,999 of which have not committed any acts of violence that we know of. The one who did was a CIA asset. But again, no mention of that whatsoever.
Maybe they should check on the CIA assets.
Maybe it's the CIA that needs reform, not this immigration policy. Maybe you should look into taking apart the CIA. You know, something that your base would actually have advocated for 1 year ago, right? But anyway, we heard from a lot of people. Let's hear from the man himself, Donald Trump. Finally, one last piece of sound for this segment. Here he is on Air Force One saying, "We don't want those people."
Asylum into the U.S.
I think a long time.
Can you give any kind of time? What's
we
a
don't
long
want those
time?
people. We have enough problems. We don't want those people.
Is that a year, 2 years?
No time limit.
And then
but it could be a long time.
You said that
we don't want those people. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Do you understand it?
I understand.
Who are you with?
I'm with News Nation. So
Okay,
my
News
name's Libby
Nation,
D.
News Nation. Great. Let me just tell you something. We don't want those people. Does that make sense? You know why we don't want them? Because many have been no good, and they shouldn't be in our country.
What do you mean by those people? Can you clarify?
People from different countries that are not friendly to us and countries.
Notice once again, making no distinction about whether they're here legally, illegally, born here, not here. We don't want those people from those countries.
It's racial.
Yeah, it's just racial.
That are out of control themselves. Countries like Somalia that have virtually no government, no military, no police. All they do is go around killing each other. Then they come into our country and tell us how to run our country. We don't want them.
How many countries, roughly, would you put on that list?
He says as he pushes Venezuela into a war.
Yeah, exactly.
19, right? probably more than that.
Is that what you mean when you mean third world countries, those 19?
No, I don't think they're all third world, but in many cases they are third world. They're not good countries. They're very crime-ridden countries. They're countries that don't do a good job. They're countries
Like ours,
that
you
don't
mean?
register
Yep.
from the standpoint of success. And we, frankly, don't need their people coming into our country telling us what to do.
When you talk about
And I'm talking about like Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution, and yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother.
Okay. So you watch a segment like this, you listen to remarks like that, and it should be no mystery to you whatsoever how two gubernatorial candidates in Virginia and New Jersey with no talent, no charisma, and no vision whatsoever between them put up Obama-type numbers with non-white voters. Literally Obama-type numbers. 90+% with black voters. 65+% with Latino voters. 65+% with Asian voters. How does a Democratic Party whose popularity is in the 20s, how do they revive their Obama coalition? How do they hit it out of the park with non-white voters led by people with absolutely zero talent, zero skill, zero vision, zero policy, zero ideas? This is how. This is exactly how. This is exactly how. Like, this trend is not going to reverse. Like, there is absolutely no way you could be getting on television and talking like this and expect to win elections. That's what makes this a very scary time, because you have to think, okay, what is their plan to stay in power? Because if you in a fair democratic fight, they can't win. They can't. We've already seen. We have results now, right? We have results now. They're sweating it out in Tennessee, a Nashville suburb race that's going to vote on Tuesday. The Republicans won it by 22 points last time. They're winning it by 2 this time. They'll probably win it. They'll probably eke it out by single digits. This is why. This is why. This is not sustainable. This is not a politically sustainable project. These are the last gasps of a dying movement. The question is, how will they lash out on the way down? Because they cannot maintain power in a country like this, talking like this, assuming everyone has a say and everyone gets to vote, right? And that's the big question mark. But it is really just shocking to see this rhetoric come out so mask off right now in response to a CIA asset snapping. We know that is what happened. We know that's what happened. That's reported fact. And yet this is the impetus for the final stage of their remigration vision. This is not the first time, by the way, that any of these people have talked about remigration. Stephen Miller talked about it on the campaign trail in 2024. There was news about a remigration committee or whatever it was, some bureaucratic structure they were looking at in terms of ways to implement this back over the summertime, late spring, early summer. So this is not the first time they've spoken like this. But this is the first time it's gone viral in the wake of a CIA-groomed murderer going mad. And it's just really shocking to see.
Yeah, this movement, so-called movement, they've really gone out of their way to prove their critics right. This isn't just the last stand of MAGA. In many ways, it is the last stand of white Christian nationalism. On the surface, they're saying, oh, look, church attendance is up. No, it's not. Not overall. Church attendance in the South has collapsed because the younger generation is not going. Bible Belt church attendance has collapsed. A lot of these churches are struggling financially. A lot of them are closing. Because, yeah, man, it's the older people who are going. Because the younger ones now, they have social media, man. They're able to see a world outside of that. It's very hard to indoctrinate in the same way when people have access to other information. So this is, when is an animal most dangerous? When it's cornered, right? This is what a lot of critics said, that this is a lot of angry racists who fear a future where they don't have their dominance intact in the country, well, they're really being proven right. I mean, how else do you interpret what this movement, so-called, became as soon as they got into power? You know, as soon as they ripped off the mask, and increasingly, it seems almost every month, more and more just straight up white nationalist Nazi movement. What we are moving into overall, look, you know, you always get when you do a segment like this, well, what do you think? Unlimited migration is good. Da, da, da. No, I don't. I think there are issues with having people who are from a different culture who don't necessarily even like this culture being brought in massive numbers. You know, the best way to deal with that? Stop bombing their fucking countries, because I promise you, they don't want to be here. They
Right.
do not want to come here en masse. Most people don't want to leave their homes. Most people are attached to the place that they're from. They come here because they're forced to come here. To blame them for coming here, you're blaming the victim. You want to do something about that. You should be out every day protesting against war, fighting against the war machine. That is really the way to address that. In terms of this overall question of Western civilization, you know, some people will often point out when they talk about this is that, you know, all cultures had war and slavery and genocide. You're right. You're right. In many ways, for these civilizations that had these disastrous encounters with the West, it was kind of like if we had an invasion by aliens. Could you say the humans had been peaceful and getting along just fine until the aliens came? Or is it that this warlike race that had been killing each other met a much bigger force that they couldn't overwhelm? That is, yes, that is what happened in most places. You look at the history of the world, it's a lot of fighting between different tribes and different states, and it's slavery and it's murder and it's horrible. I think the question of the age is, okay, well, now what? Can we grow beyond those nightmares of human history that, sure, they're not unique to the West, but where the Western chauvinists get it twisted is the idea that the West was uniquely good. The West deployed the technological and material advantages that it had for a variety of historical reasons to commit genocide on a scale that no other nation was really capable of, or no other civilization was capable of. So what do we do now? What do we do now? Like, do we want to move into a future where we wake up from this nightmare? That was really the vision that I think people shared in common. It was part of the vision, naively as it turned out, I think, that drove Obama's election. I think a lot of people who later went on to vote for Trump wanted to live in that world where we put the nightmare of history behind us and move forward into something better than what came before. And if we do not move into that, if we do not create a collectivized vision of humanity in which we recognize value in one another's humanity and culture and civilizations, we're all going to die. And that is the future they really want for us. I was just looking at a story. They just ran an experiment with robots in an automotive factory for a year. They did the job just fine. What do you think is coming next? They've got us all fighting over these kinds of issues. These kinds of issues are about to be moot. They're about to be able to replace you. It's not like they're going to get rid of these immigrants and all of a sudden you're going to have a job. You're not going to have a job. The AI is coming. The robots are coming. If we don't come together as a human race, as one human race, the only people who are going to benefit are going to be oligarchs. And you know what? They're a lot more enlightened than the views that they put out regarding race. There's only one color for those people: fucking green. They think you're a bunch of idiots, and they want the pigs killing each other down in the pig pen while they run away with all the money.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was the way that the debate was framed, and this is why liberalism has collapsed to the point where these people are in power, because under, Obama and under the Democrat sort of liberal project, we are supposed to believe that capitalism is a virtue and diversity is a virtue. And the right-wing answer to that is, well, capitalism, yes, we agree that capitalism is a virtue. So then what do we disagree on? Well, we disagree that diversity is a virtue, right? So now you're fighting over,
Right.
one side of the aisle wants
And
you
in
to...
the end, they don't really care. In
Right.
the end, they don't really care. Like,
Right.
you really think Elon Musk minds a rich person who's not white? He
Well, no.
minds a person who's not rich.
Well,
A lot more
yeah.
than he minds someone who's not white.
No,
But he
on-
wants you to really be worried about it, so
Sure.
that you don't unionize his factories.
Well, on one side of the aisle, you want people who are going to, own nothing and be nice to each other. And then the other side is, well, own nothing because capitalism dictates that you will own nothing, but you have to be really angry at one another. And that's where the lines of the debate have been drawn. Because if there is no questioning of the underlying economic system, then all you have left to fight about is how you feel about each other, right? And that's where the culture war comes in, and that's where all this race war stuff comes in. But once again, the reason why this iteration of the project is failing so hard and so fast is because people understand that there's nothing in it for them. They just understand that because the results are in. The results are in after just 1 year, right? All right. Jake, you want to put up the scroll, please? Thank you, Jake. Appreciate that. Hey, if you like what we do here, the best way to support us is to become a member. DoDissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or /locals. Membership starts at just $5 a month. You get all kinds of perks, including post-game live streams, film club live streams, call-in access to our post-show Q&As, which happen every Sunday night after the main show over on Rumble. And tonight is Sunday, so make sure you head over there after the main show. We had a great time last week with the callers. That was a really fun Q&A, so we hopefully will have another one tonight. Membership, like I said, just $5 a month. You also get, in addition to everything I mentioned, ad-free replays of every live stream emailed directly to you the day after they air on the main show. So if you want to watch the show back without ad interruption, you can get an ad-free version of every show replay to you sent to either the Patreon, Substack, or Locals via email. So thank you all very much for your support. You are the backbone of the show. All right, while that scroll is finishing up, we'll take some more of these Rumble Rants and Super Chats. Russell, you want to take some Super Chats?
Sure. Race car. What would happen if we discovered that underwater whales are actually Einstein-level geniuses? That would be insane. I don't know about the whales, man, but, well, that's kind of like the Douglas Adams thing, right? So long and thanks for all the fish. Turns out the dolphins were the smartest creatures on Earth. I was just reading an article about an octopus that was assisting a deep-sea diver, and apparently this was a real thing. Like, the octopus would come hang out with him and, like, get his tools when he dropped him. Right. Give the tools to him.
There you go.
Andy Gardner, guys, Keaton, Russ, delete this stream now. You know better. Yeah, we know better, but we keep coming back for more. Andy Gardner, interesting about the shooting. An elderly man was spotted near the crime scene screaming, "Shoot me." Again, that keeps happening. Eric Maines, Y-Files just did episode on scoring media events indicating they're psyops. Host AG warned after learning the method, you'll see psyops everywhere. He's right. And I didn't even learn the system yet. Yeah, I saw he did something interesting like that. I haven't watched it yet, though. Brad Gilbert, history repeats. Spinfluencers, Operation Himmler. Yeah, seriously, man. Millhouse, appreciate your channel. Thank you, Millhouse.
Thank you, Millhouse.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man.
Four Trees. I voted for this admin thinking things would change. Boy, was I wrong. I will never vote again in a Fed election. Both parties are corrupt and a threat. Yeah, man, I think a lot of people who voted for Trump, that's where they are. I think more of them than not, actually.
Right.
take a pick. It's not us Zionists. Look over there. It's the socialist Muslims.
That's right. That's right.
Damn socialists. All right, one more. Daniel Veloduarte, Mutual Aid, DTLA, 2515 West 7th Street, 10 to 6, every day of the year, organic food, eggs, clothes, housewares, volunteers, free food, eat for $45 a week. All right, man, you better not be sending people to your ex's house because we'll be pissed.
Yeah. Downtown Los Angeles. I think that's what DTLA means. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. My real name, the CIA chickens have come home to roost. Crystal Waters, America First MAGA isn't falling for the Islam threat because Trump just had Al-Jilani in the White House, hence the third world country remarks. Yeah, exactly. It's another good point. So you guys are making better points than me. You guys are on fire tonight. I should have had. I probably should have crowdsourced the co-host duties tonight because the audience keeps making better points than I have.
Yeah,
Also,
we've really got to cultivate these people so we can get a day off.
Yeah, exactly.
We need our Ryan and Emily.
That's right. Fuck all of them for flags not flying at half-mast. Yeah, did they not even fly the flags at half-mast? That's a good point, too. Yeah, I don't know if they did that. Monkey Rotary says, I keep telling you guys, racist. Thank you, Monkey Rotary. All right, let's move right on along to George Galloway.
All right, so George Galloway apparently is in exile. He's going to wind up writing his greatest novels now from Paris. He went on with Tucker Carlson to explain how his detention at the airport made him decide just to leave and not come back for a while. This is, and by the way, there's kind of an interesting element of this. It's really, according to Galloway, this is not a Palestine thing. This is a Ukraine thing. He's been elected to parliament 7 times. He's one of the most conservative politicians on many issues in the UK. This is Tucker. But when he criticized the Ukraine war, he was detained by British police and had his property confiscated. He's now in exile.
In the city of London right now, I'm an American. You're a citizen of the country I'm sitting in, but you're not in this country. You're in another country. Why are you there, and when are you coming back?
Well, it's a long and difficult story. It started last month when my good wife and I were detained but not arrested by the anti-terrorism police at Gatwick Airport in London. Now, ponder that piece of Kafkaesque framing. You are not under arrest, but you are not free to leave, they said. These pistol-packing anti-terrorist cops. They said you have no right to silence, and if you refuse to answer any of our questions, you will automatically be guilty under the Terrorism Act of an act in defiance of that very serious act. And the policeman joked, good luck ever getting on an airplane again. Now, to complete the framing, I'm 71 years old, 7 times elected Member of Parliament, a member of the British Parliament across 5 decades, the leader of a British political party, the biggest broadcaster in Britain, not nearly as big as you, but the biggest British broadcaster in Britain, broadcasting to the largest audience every single week. I'm one of the best known people in the country, and I've got armed anti-terrorist police telling me I'm not under arrest, but I am not free to leave. And of course, it quickly turned out that the purpose of the pool, the detention, was speech. My podcasts, my broadcasts, my tweet output, my Facebook output. That's the Britain that we now have today. And we spent 4 hours in my case, 5 hours in my wife's case, in 2 separate rooms, surrounded by armed police officers, being questioned about our political views. And in my wife's case, her fingernail, which is painted rather nicely in the Palestine colors. Now, if you had told me 8 weeks ago that such a thing was even remotely possible, I would not have believed you. There is no more patriotic British citizen than me. In the last decade, Mr. Carson, I fought 2 major battles for the British state. 2014, The Spectator said, my speeches saved the Union, when Scotland's separatist referendum looked very much like it was going to succeed. And 2016, I was one of the leading figures in the Brexit movement, trying to win Britain's independence. And so here I am, sitting in a police station in Gatwick Airport with armed men questioning me on my...
And I have personally invested in the only jellied squid restaurant in St. Petersburg. I'll have you know.
My political views. So the trauma of all that, to be honest, being outside of the country is the least of it. If I tell you, and nobody knows this except you and me and whoever watches, it literally broke my heart. I now have a cardiologist. I'm a man who never lost a day through illness at work in my entire life. And now I have a heart condition, arrhythmia, which the consultant cardiologist, a very fine one, tells me is of recent provenance. So you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to work out that these cops actually broke my heart. Allows the police to seize your documents, seize your telephone, your laptop, seize everything.
Now, he's talking about how they have expanded rights to search and seize at a port of entry. It's the same in this country, as we'll get into.
Only at the port. They would need a warrant to do it anywhere else in the country, and they'd be very unlikely to get one in regard to me. But they saw the opportunity of stopping me under that act and divesting me of my whole life. Everything, my parliamentary correspondence, my legal correspondence, my personal family pictures, my political correspondence, the members of my party, the membership list of my party, and they took it. And this is precisely the abuse of the word terrorism that you saw in London yesterday, where old ladies, old men, people in wheelchairs, blind people, are being arrested under the Terrorism Act for holding up a placard, a little piece of cardboard at their breast, and they are being taken away under terrorism charges. This is the nightmare that is Britain.
Yes, Britain is kind of leading the way. We're catching up pretty fast. The First Amendment is a little bit of a problem here, but they're working hard to get around that. There's Johnny Miller, another British journalist who's in exile. So George Galloway has gone into exile. I didn't know, but I'm not surprised. A friend said he was surprised that he was detained as he got off an airplane in London. I wasn't. It was inevitable. When I watch this, it breaks my heart because I want to go home. But I'm under political asylum in Russia because I promoted peace in Europe and British interests. And now I'm scared of the British security state, really scared, because the threats got so bad. MI5, MI6, they are traitors to the British state and to the British people. They have the power to change things, but they just let our country slip away. That whole interview with Galloway is worth checking out. He talks about how it's a topsy-turvy world, as many of us have talked about, that, yeah, man, the most vociferously hawkish people are the liberals now, right? He spoke up about Ukraine. That's who really came after him. The people insofar, look, in the end, in England as here, it's pretty much a uniparty. Most people are pro-war. But when you do find your anti-war voices, it's Thomas Massey, right? It's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Same thing there. And those are the people who really came for him. I understand where he's coming from. If I'm understanding him correctly, basically after that happened to him, when he left the country again, he didn't want to risk coming back over the border and who knows what they're going to do to him next time. So he just said, you know what? I'm out. I'm just going to stay out. I don't want to risk crossing the border back into the country. Now, you remember J.D. Vance, right after they got elected, he gave that big speech about freedom of speech. He specifically talked about the UK and people praying outside of abortion clinics. And you know what? I agree with all that. I think you should be allowed to do that. We covered stories where they arrested a girl for saying a cop looked like a lesbian. Turned out she was autistic and her own grandmother was a lesbian. They wouldn't listen. Yeah, there was that. There's the crazy woke suppression of speech. But that's all the right wing wants to talk about. It's very interesting because you don't see them saying shit. And this is on Tucker Carlson's show. You don't see them talking about how George Galloway has to live in exile because the UK has gotten so censorious. Why? Because he got censored over Ukraine and over Palestine, so they don't want to talk about that. If he had gotten kicked out because he spoke out about men in the women's locker room, it would be all over X. So this was a few months ago. We covered it at the time. Palestine Action, this is from the Metropolitan Police. Palestine Action has now been proscribed by the UK government, and expressing support for them is a criminal offense. This includes chanting, wearing clothing, or displaying articles such as flags, signs, or logos. And this is where our First Amendment, at least for the time being, gets in the way. You really cannot get a law like that through the courts yet in this country, that you literally cannot express support for a certain organization. You know, technically you could express support for Hamas. You know, you would have a very hard time trying to make a law like that. I mean, you would have to get the Supreme Court to just not adhere to the First Amendment at all. And even this court, I think, would be unlikely to do that. But yeah, shortly after that, more than 70 protesters across the UK were arrested for holding signs supporting Palestine Action, just for holding signs. This happened in September. Here they are, as Galloway was talking about, arresting someone in a wheelchair.
You are arresting somebody on a wheelchair. How many wheelchair users have you arrested today?
Yeah, it's a real threat there. It's a real threat to public safety there. And of course, they've been on a real war against journalists. Richard Medhurst is still, I believe, under investigation, still under a cloud of prosecution. Sarah Wilkinson, she was arrested twice, I believe. They arrested her twice. But hey, man, Max Blumenthal, he was detained. You're coming back from Nicaragua. They detained him, questioned him, went through his devices. Hassan Piker, this happened to. Pretty famous podcaster, streamer, questioned at the Chicago airport. So, yeah, I mean, they have been trying to take advantage of the fact that at ports, you do not have the protections that you would have otherwise when you're coming through ports of entry. So they're trying to do this as much as they can here. Clearly, we're going through a period where the principle of freedom of association, freedom of expression, freedom of political affiliation is under assault on all sides. On all sides. I mean, part of the support for Trump came from the intentional misleading they did about their support for those things, right? They attacked. No, we believe that everyone should have the right to open debate, and and the anti-woke thing presented itself as emphatically pro-debate as a cornerstone of Western civilization. After I went to the douchebag dialogues, I saw that was bullshit. I saw that they were very happy to suppress student protesters. At that time, that was really when the Columbia protests were erupting into the news, and they had nothing but disdain and derision for those protesters. So it's pretty predictable that once their faction got into power, they really have no interest in protecting people like Richard Medhurst or Sarah Wilkinson. But then, yeah, when the Democrats were in power, you have AOC talking about how people need to be deplatformed, and but as conditions deteriorate for the peasants, the ruling class has a vested interest in suppressing speech, in convincing people that criticisms of the system are wrongheaded and terroristic, stochastic terrorism, right? They have different language, different ways that they go about it, but the entire ruling class, whether liberal or MAGA or what have you, is engaged in a sustained assault on the freedoms that people in the West have come to take for granted.
Well, yeah, and just like, here, you had, I won't say a huge wave election which brought Trump in, but he did win all of the swing states. If you remember, in the last British election, the Labour Party absolutely dominated. I mean, they just crushed. And I just pulled this up because this you could see, look at the trend since 2024. So since the last election, the Labour Party support has plummeted. And now you have the Reform Party actually picking up a lot of that because the
Jeremy
Tories,
Corbyn, right?
Yeah. Well, the Tories are still, very, very unpopular. And so I think the Reform Party is Farage actually. But the Tories are still, dreadfully unpopular. So now you have really a collapse in support of the two major parties there, and it's very similar. I mean, not that the Labor Party ever really. I mean, Keir Starmer, I don't think ever really presented himself as a champion of speech, but you had what's his name, Little Rishi Sunak, go up there and make these horribly dystopian, speeches about how you didn't have a right to project "Stop Bombing Gaza" onto Big Ben.
That was right after I was there. I had my own footage of what they had been projecting on Big Ben, and it was like, stop bombing Palestine. Ooh,
right,
monsters.
And so you had the Labour Party ride in on a wave of discontent over the Tories, and now the Labour Party has just completely collapsed in support because of all this shit that they are doing. Like, it's a really destabilizing situation, and it's just really shocking to see the extent to which, even as they make moves to recognize a Palestinian state, even as they gesture validation of a lot of the critiques that these protesters are making, they are still willing to and keen to terrorize them into silence. And so all the best to George Galloway. We hope he's back home soon, or comfy wherever he is enough, at least. All right. Hey, folks, it's Sunday night, which means tomorrow's Monday. The Grifter's Bible is a mind-bending novel by El Shabooms, and it's now a free weekly series on YouTube with a soundtrack by Monumental Sonic Architecture. Follow the First Electric Church of Jesus Christ as they combine the bleeding edge of black patented neuroscience with the state-of-the-art in Michigas to beat the Great Recession. They sell visions of God to the huddled masses of Deep Ellum, Texas, and the money pours in until the local competition, the police, and the U.S. Navy decide to put a stop to it. There's ass whoopings, car chases, and a showdown at high noon on Good Friday in Dodge City. It's sci-fi noir. It's a picaresque thriller. It's a Western from 10 minutes in the future. It's the Grifter's Bible, film series by El Shabooms with a soundtrack by Monumental Sonic Architecture. New episodes posted every Monday. YouTube.com/@ElShabooms. So please go and subscribe. Tomorrow's Monday. Catch the new episode when it arrives. Okay, all right. What do we got here? Vienticus Prime says the only real difference between a rich person and a poor person is that the rich person has more resources with which to inflict his or her stupidity upon the world. That's a philosophical statement. Thank you, Vienticus Prime. Fucking typos. Yes, I paid $1 to bitch about fucking typos. Yeah, I didn't even notice it. That's how strongly the message was conveyed. If you guys need help with your streams, I don't charge an arm and a leg for my service. I'm like an Israeli Zionist. I just take what organs I want. Thank you. Good one. Appreciate that, Vienticus. Thanks very much. All right, you want to take a few super chats?
So, Brad Gilbert, Secretary Ducky, say chump once more and we'll believe you.
Yeah, there you go.
P. Walker, Gnome is like Pinocchio. With each lie, it's not her nose that gets bigger, but her lips.
Yeah.
They all look so fucking freakish, man. It's
Oh, yeah.
really disturbing. This is my dream, 1990. I would go back to my country voluntarily, but it's been destabilized by U.S. meddling for the last 20 years, like most parts of the world. The whole world is on fire. Exactly. I mean, that's my experience. I used to work with a lot of Muslims. They did not like it here. They did not.
Yeah.
They came here because their own countries were unlivable. It was impossible for them to make a living because of Western policies. Four trees. Gnome looks like a ran through Mar-a-Lago harlot. David Santucci. Economic collapse will solve the immigration problem. Nobody will want to come here. I think they're doing a pretty good job making people not want to come here anyway.
Yeah.
The people infinite. If y'all find your Ryan and Emily, call them dissident dudes. LOL, y'all the best.
Thank you, People Infinite.
All right.
All right. We'll move right on along. All right. So this was an inspiring action that took place over the Thanksgiving weekend. Did not take place here, but rather in Italy, across the pond, way across the pond. Transport in Italy disrupted by strikes against Prime Minister Meloni. Strikes and protests in Italy on Friday against Giorgia Meloni's government caused the cancellation of dozens of flights and disrupted train services around the country. The hardline USB union and smaller worker organizations called the one-day action against the government's plans to raise military spending and its support for Israel. Recent years have seen the emergence of the USB as an aggressive grassroots union which is challenging the traditional dominance of the three main confederations, the left-wing CGIL and the centrist CISL and UIL. Milan's Malpensa canceled at least 27 flights, while Bologna scrapped at least 17. Other affected airports included Milan's Linate, Naples, and Venice. Italy's flagship carrier, ITA Airwaves, said it had canceled 26 domestic flights due to the strikes. Train cancellations were announced in the main stations of Rome, Turin, Milan, and Genoa, and protests prevented trains from stopping at the smaller Milan station of Lambrate. Urban public transport services were disrupted in Rome and several other cities. Hundreds of protesters marched in Turin, many waving Palestinian flags, and another pro-Gaza march in Genoa was attended by UN Special Rapporteur on Palestinian Rights Francesca Albanese and former Greek finance minister Yanis Varoufakis. They were also joined by Greta Thunberg and one Chris Hedges, as we'll see, but here's some videos from the events.
La vicenda di Shahid.
There's Rabbi Weiss. They all got a little Italian vacation. Yeah, they all went over there. The gang was all there.
Siamo tutti antifascisti!
And here's the Al Jazeera report.
Genocide in Palestine is still ongoing. I repeat, the genocide in Palestine is still ongoing.
Here's Chris Hedges saying hello to the camera with Yanis Varoufakis. He was there too.
Chris Hedges to say a few words to our comrades across Europe.
Yeah, okay, so you're not here. Well, you're not here, but you have to recreate what the Italians are doing here at your own ports and on your own city streets, because this is the only way we're going to stop it. There's no other mechanism left.
Thank you, Chris.
That's right. There's no other mechanism left. Here's Greta Thunberg calling the Meloni government a fascist regime at the evening rally.
Chiediamo una presa di posizione concreta. Esigiamo parole chiare.
I could tell you all in detail exactly how physically repulsed I feel and how heartbroken I feel every time I think about the war criminals in charge, including your fascist government.
You go, girl.
Italy is one of the most complicit countries in this genocide when it comes to financial, military, political, and social support to Israel while they are conducting massacres, ecocide, genocide, everything you can think of. So you have a responsibility to continue showing up on the streets, to continue boycotting, blocking, organizing.
In Venice, activists blocked access to the offices of Italian defense group Leonardo. Opens new... oh, no, sorry, that's the fucking bullshit thing. Before they were dispersed by police using the water cannon. The USB, the new union, has organized another national day of protest on Saturday, that would have been yesterday, against what it calls Meloni's war budget, saying the 2026 financial bill favors military spending over much-needed investment in health, education, and welfare. So they did take some video of their rally yesterday and posted this to their Facebook page. This footage is difficult to come by for reasons that I will talk about in just a moment. But let's take a look at this. I'll read along to the subtitles for a moment here. So this was from their rally yesterday. This is the USB union. There are many jobs at risk, and the only industrial choices that the Meloni government is able to make is to turn companies into the military sector and invest public money in the construction of new weapons. It is a nightmare future, what they are describing to us. It is exactly the reason for which they did not want any form of rupture with Israel. The same hypocrisy with which they are carrying out the war policies in this country. They used it to pretend not to see the genocide all the time in Gaza and in the rest of the Palestinian territories, to pretend not to see that an entire world, starting from the United Nations, condemns the genocide against Palestinians, to pretend not to understand that those who do not intervene, even though they have full possibility to do something to isolate the state of Israel, and renounces to do so as rightly recognized by the United Nations, is complicit in this genocide. It is the same logic, it is the same modality, it is the same hypocrisy, it is the same complicity with which they are governing this country. Yeah. Great stuff there from this new union. Prime Minister Meloni, in power since 2022, has called the budget serious, balanced, and responsible, pointing to its income tax cuts for middle earners, which she says can help Italy's sluggish economy. The more mainstream CGIL, Italy's largest has announced a nationwide strike of its own members over the budget on December 12th. So that is in a couple of weeks there. But what Hedges says is absolutely right, that it's going to take strikes, boycotts, it's going to take organized economic action, starting, of course, in the workplaces. And part of the reason why I wanted to do this segment is because, oddly enough, the only outlets that I saw cover this besides Reuters were actually in Israel. the Jerusalem Post and the Times of Israel covered it. And outside that, Reuters was the only outlet that covered this protest. Now, pro-Palestine protests are not covered as much as they should, obviously, but they are covered to a decent extent. Like, usually if there's a big protest somewhere, there will be write-ups. There is a notable difference about labor actions versus general protest. Like, the media is especially reluctant to spill ink over labor actions, which tells you that those are the most effective actions. Right? They'll advertise a women's march or even a Free Palestine march. Oh, hundreds chanted outside the library and then got a Starbucks at Grand Central and took the train back to the suburbs, right? Like they'll give that some coverage. They are not keen to expose, or I shouldn't say expose, to give oxygen to organized labor actions like this, because as Hedges says, these are the most effective ones. And this is why the organizing really ultimately has to take place amongst workers at their places of work. We're seeing collapse for the Republican Party here. We're seeing support. Sorry, been a long show. Starting to jumble my words. We're seeing support for the Republican Party here collapse after an election victory last year. We just did a segment. In Britain, you're seeing support for the Labour Party collapse after a resounding victory last year. What are you seeing? You're seeing the political options that we have been confined to each start to fail. And the answer is labor organizing. That's the answer. The answer is workers leveraging the value of their labor against the system in order to extract transformative demands. That is what I am for. That is what I am for. I'm not for violent overthrow of the government. I'm a man of peace. I don't want to see civil war. Yeah, I don't want to see civil war. I don't want to see that. What I want is a working class that is organized around a series of transformative demands, loosely, broadly speaking, free healthcare, free speech, free Palestine, anti-imperialist, right, anti-capitalist demands, broadly speaking, and be able to just leverage the value of their labor. That's where the power is. The power is nowhere else. It's not at the ballot box. Obviously, we're seeing, all these major parties just implode because people are starting to see that no matter which lever they pull, they get the same results. And so this is what you have to do. And this is why the media doesn't want to cover it. And it's why I decided we should devote a little bit of time this evening to it.
Yeah. In this country, they've been much more effective in completely destroying the labor movement than they have in Europe. In Italy, they're on strike all the frickin' time. I was there for a month, and there was a strike in Venice of the water taxis while I was there. In this country, I asked Chris Smalls about general strike. He said, "Yeah, you don't have enough union power. Not ready. You got 10% of the workforce is unionized." Now, a lot of people say, this came up a lot during the Sanders campaigns in regards to Medicare for all. A lot of people say the reason they've been so effective in destroying working class solidarity in America is because of racial division. They've been able to use racial division to keep people at each other's throats to avoid providing social safety nets by saying, you don't want it to go to the welfare queen over there. And they've done the same thing with the labor movement, and they do it now. They do it now. I mean, I felt and still feel that a lot of the anti-racism stuff was really about keeping the working class divided from a liberal angle. Anything that keeps workers from coming together around common class interests benefits the oligarchic class. And when you say that, you have a lot of people say, class reductionist. No, man, it's not that there's no racism. Both things can be true. Both things can be true. Do these people seem like they care about racism, or do they seem like they want to keep everybody fighting? How do you know a thing? By what it does. Are they trying to bring people together? Does it look like they're trying to bring people together to you, or that they're trying to rip people apart to make sure that they can't come together around a common cause? And then on the other side, you have just your old school racism coming from Trump and his so-called movement. But it's just two different traps for two different kinds of mice. It's all about keeping us divided. So is that why the labor movement is more intact in Europe? Yeah, it probably has something to do with it.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it is more intact there. And that's why you're able to get these kinds of effective labor actions. And the fact that, as you point out, in this country, they don't even cover those things tells you everything you need to know about the common class interests of the people who control the media.
Right.
The idea that the media is left, they're not left. They're servants to power. Whoever has power, that's who they serve.
Yep. That's exactly right. Because when you notice, whenever there's an organized labor action, you could hardly find coverage of it anywhere.
No, yeah. Even when the teachers went on strike years ago, they hardly covered it.
Oh, yeah. Well, when the dock workers were doing that action in Italy, all the videos, all the articles were in a foreign language. We had to go to the Italian press. The U.S. outlets were like not reporting that. There's just a total blackout of that, even with like celebrity power there. I mean, Greta's a global star, and still almost zero mention of it. So I thought that was important. That's the way to go, as Hedges said. All right. EO Shush says Trump said he is going to pardon former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez. Yes, we're going to get to that, I guess, Tuesday, right, Russell? You texted me back. I think we're going to.
Well, because the election is today.
Oh,
so there are going to be election
results.
So then I could just update that piece and it's not wasted.
There you go. All right. I dig that. So, yes, we are going to get into that on Tuesday. Thank you, EO Shush.
We would have tonight, but it's getting late.
It's getting late, and we got the Q&A.
I got a Children of the Corned Beef story to do.
Oh, there you go. Yes. Whatever happened to Keaton's cool DD plaque with the Iron Maiden lettering? Oh yeah, what happened to it?
Oh yeah, what happened to that? I forgot you even had that.
It may have fallen over. I have it. I didn't. It's not gone. It may have fallen off the shelf.
So you are coming down before I leave. We are.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I have to. Yeah, no, I have to for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I know what that means when you say that.
Well, no, I'm going. I got to get the lights because I might have to do some filming while you're gone too.
Yeah, I have that freaking suitcase sitting here, like literally to my right.
I need my video equipment. You need your poster, and what else we need? We got to get the footage sorted out too. It should be on the top shelf next to the broken clock or the plastic succulent. Yeah, I don't know where it is. It must have fallen off. I'll find it. It's definitely in here somewhere. But good catch, K. Biscro. Very observant. Very observant. All right, want to take some super chats before the final segment?
Sure. All right, David Santucci. George Galloway will always have a special place in my heart for this line. Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer are two cheeks on the same backside.
Yeah.
Best I could do with that. He's got the best accent.
Yeah, it is a tough. Scottish is a tough accent. Irish and Scottish are difficult.
Eric Maines. After seeing Galloway donating in case Russell needs bail on return from his trip, stay strong and silent, and remember you're worth 2 packs of cigs minimum in lockup. Yeah. Don't let him sell you out cheap. I mean, it's definitely a concern. We're talking about proton mail and all that stuff.
My wife wants to go to London for like her 40th birthday. I'm like, listen, we might have to pick somewhere else. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm gonna get it. Can I make it in? Can I make it out? Can I make it? Like, what are they gonna do? Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you're gonna go to Europe, that would not be the top of my list.
No, it's got to be. Well, she wants to do like Paris too. You know.
Yeah, good. Paris.
I gotta take her all over
Rome.
The place here. This is like
Athens.
It's like
These
Rodney
are nice
Dangerfield.
places.
She wants to go to Paris. She wants to go to London. She wants to go all over the place here.
Interrobang, when's her 40th birthday?
Next year.
Oh, she a little older than you?
Like 3 months. She's August of 86. I'm December of 86.
How old are you now?
I'm 38. I'll be 39 in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay. Interrobang 5000. Kucinich walked so Massey could run.
There you go.
Good observation. All right. We want to do it?
Yep. All right. Let's do it. Last song. And then we're heading over to Rumble for the Q&A. DoDissidents.com/Rumble if you're joining us.
All right. So y'all have probably heard of Beelzebub Smotrich. This is a little documentary that dealt with his illustrious history as a terrorist in his own land there.
You just have to listen to Smotrich and to Ben-Gvir. Smotrich is a Jewish terrorist.
You're actually the one who arrested him in August 2005. He's the current finance minister of Israel, by the way. You found bottles of burnt fuel, right? There were a whole lot of flammables in that house. Later, we also found boxes and boxes of road spikes that they were planning on throwing on the roads.
He had all the instruments in order to use it for a terror action, but he kept silence. And because we do not interrogate Jewish terrorists the way we interrogate Palestinian terrorists, he did not confess. And this is why he was not in jail.
Okay, so did he mellow with the years? Well, here is Smotrich describing Israel's intent to commit genocide. This is back in August. Turn that down. Would I want to avoid the need to bring even a single grain into Gaza Strip altogether? Not even for the civilians? Could be. We're breaking Gaza apart, leaving it as a pile of rubble with total unprecedented destruction in the world. And the world still hasn't stopped us. The minimum required will reach the population simply so the world won't stop us and accuse us of war crimes. For 2.5 months, we didn't allow humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. What will enter in the coming days is the bare minimum. Civilians in Gaza will get a pita and a plate of food, and that's it. That's exactly what we see in the videos. People standing in line waiting for someone to dish some food onto their plate. Some bowl of soup. The truth is, until the last hostage returns, we shouldn't even give water to the Gaza Strip. Okay, so for anyone who did not know, that's Basil Smotrich. So this clip went viral this weekend. David Sheen, the KK kids are not all right. What clip? What clip? Well, if you go to it now, the page does not exist, but God bless him, he put it back up. Though Hasbris tried to delete video evidence, the KK kids are still not all right. So let's take a look at the clip that he shared out. So I don't know, we keep being told that Netanyahu does not represent Israel, that it's not, that Israeli society is a sick cult, a sick genocidal society that intentionally breeds psychopaths. But this is a pretty funny greeting if that's not the case for a guy who was a convicted terrorist in his youth and who is an avowed genocidal maniac now. Let's see that again. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this girl. She's gonna fucking have an epileptic fit here. Going crazy for this guy, like he's a pop star. Kids want to give him a hug. Holy wow. Wow.
Yeah, and just so everybody understands, I mean, it's tempting to be angry at the kids. They're kids. They don't know
They're
anything.
kids. They're brainwashed.
That's a product of brainwashing. That's just brainwashing. Yeah.
They're in a cult.
Yeah.
They're in a cult. You can't blame them. You can't blame anymore. In the end, you can't blame the Hitler Youth, right?
Right.
What did they know? Caitlin Johnston. Look at them screaming and swooning for a genocidal Nazi like the girls in those old Beatles concert videos. 2 months ago, the New York Times editorial board said Gaza needs de-radicalization programs so there can be peace. But clearly it's the Israelis who need de-radicalizing. Yeah, they always tell you, oh, that's the liberal Zionist view, right? They need to be de-radicalized. So I responded to this. Israel doesn't have a Netanyahu problem. Israel has an Israel problem. Yeah, but, Bernie Sanders won't tell you that. That's what, whenever he talks about Israel, how does he frame it? 12 billion in weapons for Netanyahu, not Israel. Not Israel. Netanyahu. It's 12 billion for Netanyahu. The problem isn't Israel. Netanyahu and his extremist allies have one goal: annexation by force. The U.S. has enabled them. Yeah, not Israel. Netanyahu. But there you go, that foreign policy here. The problem isn't just Netanyahu, it's Israeli society. And to that point, Haaretz, Israeli newspaper. 64% of Israelis see no need for more reporting on Gazan suffering. And 64% believe there are no innocent people in the enclave. So this is not a Netanyahu problem. This is not, if it were Netanyahu, a guy like Basil Smotrich, if you had a variety of opinions being expressed, could not walk into a classroom of schoolgirls like that and get universal screaming and adoration. You'd have some, maybe, and then others might be like, what the hell is he doing here, right? So what would happen if, like, Pete Hegseth walked into a classroom in America, right? That's probably what you'd get. You got some people would be like, oh my God. And you'd see on the face of a lot of people just absolute disgust. But universally, all these girls go crazy for him. So is that an isolated incident? Well, you be the judge. Israelis film themselves bullying and mocking defenseless Palestinian children for online content. So these girls put up online on social media, they thought it would be really funny to call their parents and ask them to donate money to Palestinian children who have lost their homes and get their parents' angry reaction. That's the joke. These are the jokes, people. So let's take a look. I opened a donation company for children in Gaza. Would you like to donate? Which children? To Gaza children. What do you mean, Gaza children? We want to make them homes. I mean to build for them. What do you say? But I'll also come and show what your house is. I'll come. What do you say? To Gazan children, you mean? Yes. What do you mean by yes? Yes, Gaza children, in the end, they are not Hamas.
Is trending in Israel. Teenagers calling their parents, pretending to ask if they'd like to donate to children in Gaza. Their aim? To capture their parents' reactions.
So what are they? They are orphan children, poor children whose houses were demolished by the IDF, by the occupation army.
For them, it's a joke.
Hello, this is Shalat. I'm from the Yad LaToram Association. I'd like to know if you'd be interested in donating to the children from Gaza. Donating to who? To the children from Gaza who need this money for their survival. They don't have food. To the children from Gaza, to the children who need, go get some help, my dear. Go get some urgent, you need a psychiatrist urgently, sweetheart.
For months, thousands of Palestinian children have been killed, starved, and left homeless. This mindset is not new. For years, Israeli politicians and media have pushed narratives that portray all Palestinians, including children, as threats.
There is no such thing as innocent people in Gaza. There is no such thing. The biggest enemy is the children in
Has
Gaza.
been used to justify the ongoing siege and military aggression. Does the trend show another example of the moral corruption of Israeli society amid the country's genocidal war on Gaza?
Okay. All right. So how do you get kids who think that's funny? Who would even think of that that would become a viral trend? Well, you indoctrinate them from an early age. This is Israeli and Zionists are very fond of telling you how they train them to be killers who hate Jews in Gaza and in Palestinian lands and in the West Bank. This is an actual Israeli Jewish school. What are they teaching them? Arithmetic? Hebrew?
Оружие положить. Поклон. Раз. Два. Три. Четыре. Пять.
So if you went to American high school or junior high school, you probably did some school plays, right? Probably acted in a production of Pippin or something. You ever do any school plays there, Keaton?
Of course I did school plays.
You did the school plays? All right. Well, this is what the school plays are like in Israel. This is their version of Grease. There's the Grease lightning number here. Yeah, no, they're not being trained and indoctrinated to hate Muslims and to murder Muslims. They're not being indoctrinated. Here's an Israeli commercial where the kid goes to pick out a superhero costume. I bet you can already guess how this is going to end. Okay, sweetie, go choose a costume. He said he wanted to be a superhero this year. The generation of victory doesn't wear a cape and is not afraid of the long road. Together we say thank you. You are our hope at the front lines. Wow, I thought it was Hamas that was indoctrinating children. I thought they were indoctrinating children. Looks like they're going pretty far out of their way to indoctrinate children from all sides in Israel into being genocidal, psychopathic maniacs. This was a school in Israel asking these kids about destroying the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which, if you know anything about that, would surely set off World War III. What comes to your mind when I say the word Yerushalayim, Jerusalem? The Holy Land, Holy House, the temple. Who thinks that the temple will be built in a few years? What is there in place of the temple right now? Al-Aqsa Mosque. What will happen to the mosque? It will collapse, explode, disappear. Who among you have met an Arabic kid in the last year? Where did you meet the Arabic kid? Near the temple. Did you talk to him? No, he pushed me away and left. What happened when you meet an Arabic kid? What do you feel? Angry. I feel I want to kill them. And what happened when you meet an unreligious Jewish kid? We feel sorry for him because he is secular. Why do you feel sorry for him? Is it because he was not born religious? He is not moving in the right path. How do you see Jerusalem in the next 10 years? Everybody will be a religious Jew. And there will be Arabs, but they will be slaves. Oh, because the Messiah will be here? What do you say? There will be a massive war and all the Arabs will die, and part of them will become slaves. Good. You got all the information. Thank you, kids. Keep up in your education here. Okay, now you want to say, well, that's an extremist religious sect. All right, well, what happens when people with these views go onto Israeli TV? Because kids like that grow up to be adults like this. Now, this is a popular Israeli talk show on Channel 12. And here he is explaining exactly the same thing. I'm sure this guy was one of those kids at one point. It's important that everyone knows, that all the people of Israel knows that everything here is from the Holy Torah, and the whole revolution that's happening here throughout Judea and Samaria, it's from Homesh, and this Torah study hall that made a pledge that it will not be silent and will not rest until the people of Israel return to all of greater Israel. So he's talking about the Palestinian territories when he talks about that. The amends won't come by rebuilding Homesh, Sanor, Ganim, and Kadim. Like Menorah said, the amends will be that in all of this area, we will dispossess and expel, as the Torah said, because there's no way for us to live here in the land of Israel if we don't expel them from here. This must be known. It must be remembered. There is only one option, that in the land of Israel, there will be sovereignty over the entire land. And there cannot be a single Gentile here who opposes the people of Israel on this land. That will be the amends. Thank you. Okay, so you hear the audience, they're applauding. This is a mainstream, popular Israeli talk show. And again, you know, in a way, it's where do you draw the line at the chain of responsibility? I'm sure he was one of those kids in those classrooms. This is how they wind up this way. Finally, here's a video of some settlers expressing the same genocidal views that they're indoctrinating these children with.
They don't deserve it. What I care, kill them. I don't care.
Do you trust Palestinians?
No, I know all about them. I don't trust them.
This is
I want them out
Lafredo's
of
video.
here.
Yeah.
I want to be civilized with Jews from Israel.
And as the Bible says, this place is for us. It's promised for us, so they can starve to death to pay on the things that they've done to us on the 7th of October.
I think what we need, I don't know, we need to be united and kill all of them. We all need to go back into Gaza and control all of it. Make it part of our country. Okay. All right. So this is not an isolated thing that, you know, these girls going crazy for Basil Smotrich. This is not Netanyahu. If Netanyahu did not represent Israel, how has he been in politics in Israel for over 20 years, usually in very prominent positions as prime minister? Because he is Israel. He does reflect Israeli society. Many people say Netanyahu is actually moderate compared to most of his party. And if you look at Basil Smotrich, if you look at Ben Gvir, in the end, that's true, which is terrifying. This is a society and a culture, the likes of which we have rarely seen in modern times. This is a true religious cult of a state, even where they think of themselves as secular. It's that great Elon Pape line. Most Israelis are secular, but they all believe God promised them Palestine. In the end, the core claim is a religious claim. The core claim is the idea of being a chosen people. And you take this nation of, largely founded by traumatized, brutalized Jews from Europe, send them in there to project that trauma onto the native population, which they necessarily have to do to justify their whole project, which is inherently doing to other people what was done to them by the Nazis. You get 2-3 generations on, what do you have? You have Nazis. These kids are Nazis. And yeah, they're not to blame. This is how they've been indoctrinated. But you have to appreciate that to understand what kind of a problem you're dealing with when you're dealing with Israel. Even if you dismantle the apartheid government and the apartheid state, you're going to have to deprogram the Israelis. They're deranged. They're deranged. You're going to have to go through a period of denazification of the Israeli people. The entire society is sick.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, and this is where, when you look at, the influence of Israel in American politics, where we consider ourselves, beacons of, quote unquote Western values, even though they're not uniquely Western, of debate and reason and logic and things like that, you're just dealing with a mismatch, right? You're not dealing with rationality, right? You're dealing with a cult. I mean, we are beholden to a cult in that way,
right?
Because that's what that is, right? And so, and this is a lot of why it's just a matter of just using means of influence that just transcend any kind of rationality. This is why you have uniform support for Israel, despite the fact, or near uniform support for Israel within the halls of government. That's not won through persuasion. That's won through coercion. That's what that is.
We need to popularize the term de-Zionification.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Monkey Rotary says, Russ, how long you know Keaton? 10 years plus? Russ, how old are you? What's your name? Wise or are you a Jew? Thank you, Monkey Rotary. Vianticus Prime, when you get a chance, watch Cannon Fodder, a short anime that was part of a compilation called Memories in 1995. Also, we still get Conspiracy from 2001 to watch. Let's throw in Jones Plantation, too. Thank you, Vianticus. Appreciate that. All right, go ahead.
All right. From JB, speaking of ecocide, Abby Martin's Earth's Greatest Enemy documentary about the MIC's effect on global climate change is streaming across the U.S. Yeah, you know what the big movie is this week? What's the UFO thing? Disclosure?
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. I forget. I heard about it.
Without Bound Snow. RFK, you do it.
Drip it in my ear. I hear it gets rid of the world. P.S. from one New York Jew to another. You are my new spirit animals. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, one more. Anthony Aguilar.
Oh, this is the Anthony.
Is this Anthony Aguilar?
Yeah, it's a picture. It's the Anthony Aguilar.
It's not an imposter.
Oh, thanks for watching. Round of applause for Anthony Aguilar in the chat, everybody.
Ben Gvir is even worse, and both Smotrich and Ben Gvir had a direct hand in GHF operations. No water, below the bare minimum food to survive. Thank you very much for watching and writing in, man. It's an honor.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, no, Jose told us when you pitched the, Jose said you were a fan. So thank you for your support, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate all you do. All right, everybody. Well, that's our show. We are going to head over to the Q&A. The Q&A link is dudissidents.com/Rumble. So if you're a patron, you can call in. Everybody else, you're welcome to come watch. We hope you do come watch. Just to give you guys an idea of what you're missing if you don't stick around for the Q&A. I do want to show this because we tweeted this video out last week. This is one of our favorite moments in the recent history of the show. And it happened on the Q&A side. And so I thought we should play it as a tease to get people to come over because you never know when you're going to miss gold. You know, sometimes our callers offer us gold. And so this was true gold here. This was one of our favorite moments. This was from the Q&A last Sunday. It was our last caller of the night. So this was late at night. But this was one of our favorite moments when Mark, who was a caller, asked us how long before Cheryl Hines divorces RFK Jr. And then the question of whether or not he made her sign a prenup came about. So let's take a look. This is what you're missing if you call it a night before the Q&A, everybody.
Before Hines divorces Kennedy.
Oops, sorry.
What about the prenup?
Is there a prenup? I mean, do they have one? I don't know.
I'm just assuming.
Assuming with the Kennedy there would be one.
Yeah, I mean, for
those people, they're kind of known for their fucking ruthlessness.
I guess you'd have to review it close with your counsel and say, is the ongoing humiliation.
I mean, if you're Robert F. Kennedy and you're worth like tens of millions of dollars and you have an insatiable felching habit and a tendency to cheat on your wife, I think you would probably make her sign a prenup.
I mean, look, you don't have kids with this guy.
Seems like a pretty high-risk situation to enter into a marriage if you're Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and not have him sign a prenup. Like, I'm a fucking drug addict who likes to fucking suck cum out of women's assholes.
Yeah.
And I have a history of cheating on my wife. And I think I think they got to sign a prenup. Listen, you're gonna have to sign this.
The wine.
Some things you should know about me.
What in Miramar, the Weinstein Club at the building? You guys just have you laughing with this show. I know it's a long night. Sure, but you guys have a fun night. Thanks for the laugh.
Yeah. All right. Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. Bye-bye.
So that's the content you're missing if you're not.
That's what you're missing out on.
That's what you're missing if you're not coming over for the Q&A. That was some funny shit. That was a lot of fun. I should have. I mean, what would have made that line even better? My first wife killed herself because I cheated on her so much. That means you got to sign a prenup moving forward. Yeah, that's a high risk marriage right there. All right. Well, thanks everybody very much for being here.
And I have a fun intermission tonight.
Fun intermission tonight. And we will take your calls.
I pulled one of the everyone's making these Elvis in different movies videos. So I pulled the Planet of the Apes one.
Oh, there you go. Nice. All right. Excellent. Well, there will be a 5-minute break, and then we'll continue the show over on Rumble for the Q&A. Patrons can form the call-in line right now. Everyone else, if you're not sticking around, we'll see you Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Everybody else will see you in 5 minutes. Thanks to Jake for sticking around in the booth. Round of applause for Jake in the chat. Thank you to the mods for keeping the peace in the chats over on Rumble and YouTube. We got Bonzo being here. We got Jezzy here. Thank you all for helping us out in the chat. Appreciate you all. We will see you in 5 minutes for the Q&A. Otherwise, we'll see you Tuesday, 1 p.m. Until whenever we see you again, thanks for staying up with us tonight. Appreciate you all, as always. Until we see you again, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.